Hey everyone, What If Fan here, bringing you another exciting part of What If Transmigrated as a Kanto gym leader. You can find the fanfic title and the original author's name on my Patreon page. Make sure to check it out and show them some love. If you enjoy the video, don't forget to like, subscribe, and ring that notification bell so you never miss an upload. Quick update. What If sign-in system in High School DxD is now on hold, since we've caught up with the author. So now, I need your help picking the next project for the channel. I'm currently deciding between these three fanfics. What if Gacha system in Modern Family World? What if Natsu has dual elements? What if transmigrated in one piece and becoming a marine? Please vote in the poll and let me know which story you'd like to see next. I'll take the top pick and start working on that series next. Also check out my Patreon channel for early releases of all the series, where you can find all the series released one day ahead of YouTube. Alright, let's jump into it. Chapter 111, Ghost? No, it's a robbery. Okay. The receptionist had never encountered a challenger who suddenly gave up before, but her strong mental resilience allowed her to understand. The karate master was furious, blaming the chatty psychic for his bad luck in landing on the ghost type. How could he have possibly drawn the ghost type otherwise? Damn it! This is so unfair. Just admit your own bad luck. How can you blame me? The psychic spread his hands, feigning innocence, while silently cursing the karate master to land on the dark type. What a joke! The karate master must be out of his mind. Doesn't he know that I am a noble psychic, 1 in 1,000? I am the chosen one. A brute who only relies on brute force. Let me show you what true luck is. And then, this doesn't make sense. There's no way I could have drawn the dark type. The psychic's eyes widened in disbelief, his face turning ashen, as the spinning wheel's pointer landed squarely on the black dark type section. I seriously doubt this spinning wheel is fair. The psychic voiced his suspicions. Mr. Psychic, I understand your frustration, but you were the one who pressed the button. Would you still like to start the battle? The receptionist maintained her sweet smile, her expression unwavering. After 2 months of experience, she had seen all kinds of challengers. She'd even witnessed someone faint from anger during a battle. Compared to that, this minor complaint was nothing. Only a fool would fight against a dark type. The psychic's face contorted, but in the end, he scoffed dismissively. What self-respecting psychic-type trainer would want a battle against a dark-type lineup? Ha ha ha. That's hilarious. The karate master laughed openly, clutching his stomach. Right back at you, the psychic retorted with a cold smile. Seeing that 2 of the 4 challengers had already dropped out before the battle even began, the older woman wondered if it was time to leave. The bird keeper beside her was equally baffled by their companion's behavior. Are you guys here to clown around? Suddenly, a mocking voice came from behind them. It was Gary, his expression filled with arrogance. Who is this guy? He's so arrogant. The karate master and the others looked annoyed. Gary paid no attention to their glares and calmly approached the spinning wheel machine, exuding a boss-like aura. Mr. Gary, are you here to challenge the gym today as well? The receptionist's gaze was a bit unusual. She couldn't believe he dared to return. She still remembered how devastated Gary looked after Blue was defeated by Darkrai last time. Where I fall is where I'll get back up. That's the Oak family's creed. Today, I will definitely win the Rota badge. Gary confidently flicked his hair, speaking calmly. Of course, only Gary knew if that was truly the Oak family's creed. Gary, you're so cool. Gary, you're amazing. Gary's cheerleader girlfriends excitedly waved their arms. TCH, this guy is so annoying. Usually, the more arrogant they are, the harder they fall. The karate master and the psychic whispered to each other. Well then, please proceed. The receptionist nearly lost her composure but maintained her professionalism, gesturing for Gary to go ahead. Gary's expression turned serious as he pressed the button. As long as it's not ghost type. Ghost-type Pokemon are rare, and even fewer trainers specialize in them. Gary didn't have much experience battling ghost-type Pokemon, so it would be troublesome if he landed on that type. But congratulations, Mr. Gary. You landed on the ghost type. I'll go get the gym leader. The receptionist's sweet smile remained as she turned to walk toward the backyard. Gary's expression grew serious, and he wanted to cut off his hand. How could he land on that 1/3 chance? But it was fine. Gary steadied himself. After all, it was just the ghost type. This time, he would definitely win. 3rd time's the charm. He had already lost twice, so it had to work this time. Before long, Dylan, dressed in his usual black attire, arrived. When he saw Gary, he immediately smiled brightly. Mr. Gary, it's been a while. I've missed you. Dylan greeted Gary like an old friend, smiling warmly. He had a strong impression of Gary, not just because of his memories from the anime in his previous life, but because Gary was his first challenger. Seeing Dylan's enthusiastic demeanor, Gary's eyelid twitched. Something felt off. Indeed, something was off. Dylan had never been this friendly before. Something was definitely up. I was visiting other regions for a few days. I didn't expect to run into you as soon as I got back. It seems we're quite fated, Dylan said with a sigh. Ha. Maybe. Gary chuckled dryly. No, I don't want this fate at all. I just want your gym badge. Gary discreetly rolled his eyes. If we're really so fated, why don't you change the type to dark or poison? After some polite exchanges, the two entered the battle arena. We now begin the battle for the ghost-type Rhoda badge. The challenger is Gary from Pallet Town. The battle rules are 2v2. The gym leader will go first and cannot switch Pokemon. The winner is the first to defeat both of the opponent's Pokemon. The referee announced the battle rules. While everyone was focused on the arena, a brown-haired girl wearing a black fitted top and navy blue denim shorts walked into the gym, curiously glancing around. If my opponent is you, Mr. Gary, I suppose I don't need to introduce myself. Today, I will be battling you with ghost-type Pokemon. Dylan elegantly adjusted his collar, smiling at Gary across the battlefield. Mr. Gary, do you know about ghost types? They often lurk in unknown forests, castles, and graveyards, silently bringing surprises to people. They love to play tricks, and their mysterious powers make them formidable. So, Mr. Gary, please experience the fear that comes from ghost types. Dylan enlarged the Pokeball at his fingertips and threw it with a flick of his wrist. Misdreavus, prepare for battle. With an eerie, ethereal wail, a dark green Pokemon floated before Dylan, its mouth curved into an innocent smile as it stared at Gary. It looked quite cute. But Gary wasn't fooled. This was Dylan's Pokemon, after all. Ninetales. It's up to you. After careful consideration, Gary sent out the Pokemon he had meticulously chosen. With a flash of white light, a magnificent golden fox landed gracefully in front of Gary. Its fur was a pale yellow, its scarlet eyes piercing, its body well proportioned with an air of nobility and elegance, and its 9 foxtails were exceptionally beautiful. This was the Ninetales that had evolved from Vulpix. Wow, what a gorgeous fox! At some point, Lily had also arrived at the audience area, her eyes sparkling as she admired the Ninetales on the field. So beautiful. Deep Ninetales, Fire type, the fox Pokemon. Ability, Flash Fire. Moves, Quick Attack, Flamethrower, Confuse Ray, Fire Spin, Safeguard, Will-O-Wisp, Extrasensory, Nasty Plot, Roar, Inherited. Description, intelligent and vengeful, it is said that anyone who touches its tails will be cursed for 1,000 years. This guy's strength seems to have improved a lot, huh? Looking at the information on Ninetales, the receptionist was quite surprised. She actually remembered very clearly. When Gary first came to challenge the gym, his strength was pretty average, and his arrogance was off-putting. But after 2 months, this guy's strength had indeed improved a lot. Why bring Ninetales to challenge the Rhoda gym? The karate master and his group were also watching the match, and the karate master was a bit puzzled. This annoying kid shouldn't be challenging for the first time, right? Ninetales, a fire type, doesn't have an advantage over poison or dark types. I don't know, maybe he has his own reasons, the woman shrugged. Compared to Ninetales, she was more curious about the gym leader Dylan's Pokemon. After all, the Ghost-type team was only introduced in the new version today. Deep Misdreavus, Ghost and Night Scream Pokemon. Ability, Levitate. Moves, Pain Split, Psybeam, Hex, Mean Look, Confuse Ray, Destiny Bond, Curse, Protect. Those moves. The woman's eyelids twitched. Challenger goes first. Dylan raised an eyebrow as he looked at Ninetales and gestured for Gary to start. Then I won't be polite. Gary had no intention of holding back. Gym leader Dylan, let me show you the results of my efforts to defeat you. I'm a trainer who survived through Blue's intense training. When Gary thought about the days of brutal training with Blue, he felt a bit nauseous. But there was no doubt, the training was effective. Not only did Gary's Pokemon learn many new moves from Blue's Pokemon, but Gary's own battle awareness had also improved significantly. Ninetales. Safeguard. When challenging the Rota Gym, guarding against status conditions is necessary. This was hard-earned experience for Gary. Ninetales howled, and mysterious waves continually merged into its body. The normal-type move Safeguard would protect Ninetales from status conditions, including confusion and sleep. Not bad. Dylan nodded in satisfaction, seeing this. Gary finally understood this. Dylan indeed liked to use various status conditions to weaken his opponents. After all, status conditions were simple and effective, often having miraculous effects. Mean Look. Dylan smiled and gave the command without attacking immediately. Misdreavus's eyes glowed with black light, and a dark shadow quietly appeared under Ninetales, locking it in place. Safeguard couldn't prevent the trapping effect of Mean Look. Ninetales, Flamethrower. Gary wasn't too concerned. Mean Look was annoying, but as long as he could defeat Misdreavus, it would be fine. Dodge, then use Curse, Dylan smiled calmly. What? Gary frowned. Starting with Curse? But it wouldn't work, right? The Ghost-type Curse shouldn't affect Ninetales, given that it's under Safeguard. Ninetales shot a stream of intense flames toward the floating Misdreavus. A Fire-type Flamethrower. But such a straightforward attack was hard to hit Misdreavus, who easily evaded it and then glowed with eerie energy. An ancient, decayed nail appeared before Misdreavus, slowly piercing into its own body. Misdreavus showed a painful expression as if enduring great agony. The Ghost-type move Curse. It sacrifices a large amount of its own HP to put the opponent in a cursed state, where the opponent loses HP periodically, far worse than being poisoned. The decayed nail completely entered Misdreavus's body, and a gray aura shot toward Ninetales at high speed. Ninetales didn't even have time to react before the gray aura reached it, but the mysterious waves on its body blocked the curse. Question mark. Seeing this, Gary was puzzled and looked at Dylan. Did Dylan forget that Safeguard can block the curse? That can't be right. Mr. Gary, are you confused? Yes, in my eyes, Gym Leader Dylan, you're not the kind of third-rate trainer who forgets the effects of moves. Gary couldn't understand. Don't worry, Mr. Gary, you'll understand soon. Dylan chuckled. I'm showing you the full process. The full process? Gary was taken aback. Misdreavus, Pain Split. Misdreavus chanted softly, its eyes glowing with eerie blue light. Gary's pupils contracted. The normal-type move Pain Split adds the user's HP to the opponent's HP and then divides it equally between them. This is indeed friendly. Friendly, my foot. My Ninetales was at full health, and your Misdreavus was already half dead from using Curse. You're outright robbing Ninetales of its HP. Is this a ghost type? This is outright robbery. Only now did Gary understand what Dylan meant by the full process. Lock them in with Mean Look, curse yourself to curse them, then rob their HP with Pain Split, and finally, just wait for the curse to slowly drain them. Alright. If I hadn't been smart enough to start with Safeguard, I'd already be waiting to die, wouldn't I? Chapter 112, It's Just a Flickering Flame. Gary quickly figured out the strategy, and his expression grew quite serious. Two beams of white light flew out from Misdreavus and Ninetales, merging in midair before equally splitting and returning to both Pokémon. Pain split was complete. Misdreavus let out a satisfied chirp, visibly looking much better, but Ninetales, on the other hand, seemed to be much weaker. Being forced to share pain with Misdreavus had drained a lot of Ninetales' stamina. That's really vicious. The spectators, including the woman, were all tongue-tied. Anyone who wasn't prepared or didn't know what to expect would likely be tricked by Misdreavus. It really is unorthodox. Thank goodness my grandmother is getting married this afternoon, otherwise, I'd be the one in that battle. The karate master felt fortunate. His Machoke didn't have any mysterious protection if he had to face off against Dylan's ghost-type Pokémon. The karate master could feel his anger boiling over just thinking about it, but watching the battle from a bystander's perspective felt much more satisfying. He even wanted to laugh. However, as soon as he finished speaking, he noticed everyone around him was looking at him. What's wrong? The karate master was a bit puzzled by the way they were staring at him. On the battlefield. Ninetales, use Psychic. Gary's face wasn't looking good. Being taken advantage of by Misdreavus like that had put him in a bad mood. A blue light flashed in Ninetales' eyes, and an invisible psychic force surged towards Misdreavus. The Psychic-type move, Psychic. Psychic-type moves don't have an advantage over Ghost-types. After all, Misdreavus isn't like Gengar, which also carries a Poison-type. If it were possible, Gary would prefer Ninetales to attack with its Fire-type moves, but hitting Misdreavus with fire was too difficult. Psychic, being a formless attack, was actually easier to land, or so it seemed. Leave your spot, Dylan said with a smile in his eyes. Use Curse again. Misdreavus immediately slid backward, and the ominous ancient nail appeared before it once more. Ding ding. Yow. The eerie sound of the decayed nail driving into Misdreavus's body echoed in everyone's ears. Misdreavus's expression was a mix of pain and unsettling pleasure, emitting a ghostly cry. This bizarre scene and the morbid cry left the spectators feeling uneasy, even a bit horrified. Ninetales. Use Flamethrower to sweep it. Gary unhesitatingly ordered Ninetales to use Flamethrower. Ninetales gathered a dense flame in its mouth, shooting a hot stream of fire toward the floating Misdreavus. But Misdreavus had already completed the curse, and the gray aura quickly shot towards Ninetales, only to be blocked by Ninetales' safeguard. After using Curse for the second time, it was obvious that Misdreavus's energy was now very weak. If it hadn't been for the pain split sharing Ninetales' stamina, this second curse would have knocked Misdreavus out of the battle. However, despite its poor condition, Misdreavus's eyes were still gleaming with excitement, almost as if it were enjoying itself. As Flamethrower closed in, Misdreavus let out a sharp, eerie laugh, gracefully dodging the continuous stream of flames. Crazy. Why are you laughing so happily? Is there something wrong with you? Is your trainer forcing you to hurt yourself? And yet you're acting as if you're on some kind of high? Misdreavus's taunting cries were making Gary more and more frustrated, but he couldn't think of a solution at the moment. No, this Misdreavus is very agile, clearly trained specifically for evasion. It's going to be hard for Ninetales to hit it from the ground. The woman tried to put herself in Gary's shoes, and her expression had already turned extremely grim. That's why having a Pokémon that can fly is so important. If Ninetales could fly, Misdreavus wouldn't be able to act so recklessly, said the bird keeper matter-of-factly. Do you have a way to deal with Misdreavus's tactics? The psychic sneered at the bird keeper. Not at the moment, the bird keeper shrugged. The psychic rolled his eyes. Then what's the point of saying all that? Pain split. On the battlefield, Dylan had already issued another order. Misdreavus continued to retreat, its eyes glowing with a strange light. Once again, two white orbs emerged from both Misdreavus and Ninetales, merging in midair. It was clear that Misdreavus's orb was only the size of a thumb, while Ninetales' orb was still as large as a fist. The two orbs fused together, then evenly split and returned to Misdreavus and Ninetales. Woo! An empty, fatigued feeling instantly filled Ninetales, making its legs nearly give out. On the other hand, Misdreavus instantly recovered, becoming even more energetic, its cries more powerful.
Damn! Gary was starting to lose his cool. How can it be so disgusting? Are you just messing around doing sit-ups? One moment you're weak, and the next you're fine? But my Ninetales hasn't even been attacked, and it's already close to fainting. Gary's expression turned as dark as could be.
In his previous 2 challenges against Dylan, his Pokemon at least managed to land some attacks, but this time, Misdreavus hadn't used a single offensive move.
Yet somehow, his Ninetales was already in terrible shape.
Sure, Misdreavus was also in poor condition, but it's not the same. Misdreavus was weakened by self-inflicted damage, but Ninetales wasn't.
Is this how Brother usually deals with challengers?
Lily's delicate face looked very strange as she asked the receptionist and Celine, who were watching intently. Although she had seen Dylan battle Zinnia back in Meteor Village and knew that Dylan's battles were all about tactics and strategy.
Did Ghost-type battles really have to be so underhanded?
Lily couldn't shake the feeling that the young challenger was probably cursing her brother in his mind right now. His face had turned completely dark.
I
think so, the receptionist pondered for a moment, tilting her head before confirming.
Lily. My brother must have his reasons for doing this.
Lily thought to herself, convinced that her brother, who was usually so warm and sunny, must be using this battle style to better temper the challengers.
Meanwhile, on the battlefield. Ninetales. Quick attack, Gary gritted his teeth and commanded Ninetales.
He had to take a risk, and with Safeguard's effect about to wear off, Dylan surely wouldn't let Ninetales use it so easily again. Ninetales sprang forward, its limbs moving in unison as white light flashed from behind it, leaping quickly towards the airborne Misdreavus.
The normal-type move Quick Attack, it was a priority move.
Even though normal-type moves don't affect Ghost-types, Gary was just using Quick Attack to boost Ninetales' speed. So, you finally couldn't hold back, Dylan chuckled softly. But wanting to get close now, Mr. Gary, it's already a bit too late.
Misdreavus, Hex.
Misdreavus slid backward, while above it, a purplish-red energy condensed into a massive, eerie eyeball shape. One after another, ghostly purple rings shot out, aiming at the charging Ninetales.
The Ghost-type move Hex.
Although Ninetales wasn't in a status condition, which would double Hex's power, the move itself was still decently powerful, especially since Hex launches multiple attacks.
With the speed boost from Quick Attack, Ninetales moved swiftly, dodging the oncoming rings of Hex by tilting its head and twisting its body, but ultimately, Ninetales couldn't fly. Boom! The final Hex aura found its mark, and Ninetales couldn't evade it, resulting in a direct hit on its body.
Ninetales let out a cry of pain, and Gary's expression changed slightly.
Shadow Ball.
A ghostly black ball of shadow energy formed in front of Misdreavus and shot directly toward the falling Ninetales.
Boom!
The shadow ball struck Ninetales perfectly, slamming it heavily into the ground.
When the dust cleared, Ninetales had lost its ability to fight. Ninetales is unable to battle.
Misdreavus is the winner, the referee announced.
Yay!
Seeing this, the 3 young girls were visibly delighted. Gary's cheerleading squad exchanged silent glances. They weren't as downcast as before. Getting used to something is a frightening thing. Yes, they were already accustomed to Gary hitting a wall here.
Mr. Gary, you acted impulsively in the end. If you had the courage to go all in, why didn't you try to get close to Misdreavus from the start? Dylan shook his head in disappointment as he looked at Gary. Actually, Gary had a chance to defeat Misdreavus with Ninetales.
This Ninetales had more raw power than Misdreavus and didn't need to worry about status conditions due to its safeguard. But Gary played it safe and chose a ranged attack from the beginning. However, trying to hit a flying Misdreavus with ranged attacks is easier said than done. If he had used Quick Attack to close the distance from the start, attacking Misdreavus up close would have been a better strategy than staying on the ground, waiting for Misdreavus to strike.
In battle, a trainer must make crucial decisions. This is very important.
Gary's face showed a hint of discomfort, but he did realize his mistake. Gym leader Dylan, I made a mistake just now, but this time, I definitely won't.
Recalling Ninetales, Gary spoke with determination. It's okay. He still has a chance. Misdreavus is already on its last legs. What else can it do? As long as it doesn't use Pain Split again, it'll be fine. I'm looking forward to your performance, Mr. Gary. Dylan smiled and gestured for Gary to send out his next Pokemon. He indeed had high expectations for Gary.
This was Gary's third challenge, but there was no doubt that each time, Gary showed significant improvement. Although there were still some shortcomings, in Dylan's eyes, these minor flaws did not overshadow the progress Gary had made. This was all thanks to him.
Dylan felt a sense of accomplishment.
After all, it was his guidance that helped Gary improve so much. He was truly a successful gym leader.
Yes, that must be it. Alakazam. Use Psybeam.
After some thought, Gary decisively threw the Pokeball and immediately gave a command.
If the attack is fast enough, Misdreavus won't have a chance to use Pain Split. Take it out in one go. Dylan's expression turned strange at this.
A flash of white light, and the Alakazam Gary used last time reappeared.
Its eyes glowed blue, and a colorful beam quickly shot toward Misdreavus. An offensive Psybeam. Mr. Gary, do you really not understand Ghost-type Pokemon? Gary was taken aback. What does that mean? Dylan sighed helplessly. Was he blinded by the imminent victory? Since the opponent is a Ghost-type, shouldn't you at least be wary of that one move? Destiny Bond.
Misdreavus, who had been retreating to dodge Psybeam, suddenly had its eyes light up with a dark glow, locking onto Alakazam.
Wait! Alakazam, don't! Gary's expression changed dramatically.
The Ghost-type move Destiny Bond, in simple terms, is an extreme one-for-one move.
Moreover, Destiny Bond cannot be blocked by moves like Magic Coat or Safeguard. But it was too late. As Misdreavus stopped dodging, the psychic wave of Psybeam directly hit Misdreavus. Misdreavus let out a cry as it was blasted away and hit the ground. Misdreavus was unable to battle.
This was the first time Gary had defeated one of Dylan's Pokemon, but he couldn't be happy. Because soon after, a gray aura of death swiftly shot out from Misdreavus's body and entered Alakazam, causing Alakazam, who was in perfect condition, to weaken, its eyes going blank, and it collapsed with swirls in its eyes. Destiny Bond succeeded, taking Alakazam down with Misdreavus, both falling into a peaceful sleep.
Misdreavus and Alakazam are both unable to battle. Since Challenger Gary's two Pokemon are unable to continue, the match is awarded to Gym Leader Dylan. The referee announced the result of the battle.
Ghost types are so strong, Lily exclaimed as she watched the two unconscious Pokemon on the field, her gaze lingering on Misdreavus, marveling from the bottom of her heart.
This Pokemon, which even looks a bit cute, is incredibly powerful. Right? I think so too. I've decided that I also want to catch a Ghost-type Pokemon.
Celine's eyes sparkled. Misdreavus's performance in this battle had completely opened her eyes.
And even in a very weak state, it could still go for a one-for-one. So cool. Celine, you haven't even finished training your Dark-type teen yet. Oh, come on, it's fine.
I'm not like the gym leader, who can train one or two main teams for each type.
I don't have that capability.
I'm planning to take the best tactics from the gym leader's arsenal and build the most annoying team.
Celine said, full of determination. Annoying?
Pfft, no, I meant perfect.
You heard wrong.
Meanwhile, on the field, Gary was dumbfounded.
Where did his big, strong Alakazam go? This sucks. How could there be such an annoying move like Destiny Bond? Gary's mind was in a daze again, looking at the fainted Alakazam and feeling dizzy.
His third challenge at the Rota Gym had ended in another loss.
Ugh, this is the third time already. Chapter 113, Reality or Ideal? Gary, I'm sorry, but you still couldn't beat me.
Dylan first sprayed some hyper potion on the awakened Misdreavus, rubbed its head in praise, and then, with Misdreavus cheerfully squinting its eyes into crescent moons, he walked over to Gary.
Gary didn't look pleased at all.
This was really strange.
Why is this gym so tough? Just a few days ago, he went to challenge the Celadon City Gym and easily defeated Leah to get the rainbow badge. This should mean he's actually improved, so why can't he win here? There must be something he's missing.
Learning Protect was not a mistake, but it's still not enough. As expected, when battling Dylan, you can't let him freely use status moves.
But I did see your progress.
Compared to before, you're not as impulsive.
Dylan smiled and praised him. Humph, that's only natural. I'm Gary Oak, after all. Gary's expression softened quite a bit, though he still boasted arrogantly, unwilling to concede fully.
However, there were still a lot of points lost in the end. When dealing with ghost types, even if your opponent is in poor condition, you can't afford to be careless or reckless.
Dylan pointed out the mistakes Gary made in his challenge this time.
Of course, I know that.
This time, I was just not in the best shape.
Maybe I ate something bad this morning that affected my performance.
Next time, I'll definitely win.
Gary continued to be stubborn, but as he spoke, he suddenly remembered he had already used the excuse of not being in the best shape before, so he quickly changed it.
MHM. Dylan nodded cooperatively, amused. Great spirit.
I look forward to your performance next time, Gary.
Dylan admired Gary's determination not to give up. To be honest, Gary was quite good. If he performs well next time, he could indeed reward him with a badge. Just depends on what type Gary draws next time. Dylan, I'll be back.
Gary flicked his hair and turned away in a cool manner, calling out to his girlfriends as he left. Pressure really does create motivation. At this rate of growth, Gary might actually do well in the Indigo League.
Dylan raised an eyebrow. To be fair, if it weren't for those two monsters, Red and Leah.
Dylan felt that if he continued to grow like this, Gary could potentially do great at the Indigo League at the end of the year, especially since this year's Indigo League had a particularly low standard.
Yeah, thanks to himself. Are you all going to challenge as well? Dylan looked over at the 4 karate experts in the audience and asked with a gentle smile.
Yes, gym leader. They are also. The woman quickly responded, but before she could finish, the psychic cut her off. No, gym leader Dylan, we're just here to watch and prepare for our challenge next time. My dad, who's halfway to having diabetes, has to go to the hospital for a checkup this afternoon, so I really don't have time for a battle. I drew dark type, so I'll wait for tomorrow. The older sister quickly declined. The psychic wasn't afraid of ghost types, but he had drawn dark type. According to the rules of Rota Gym, each challenger can only challenge once a day, and since he gave up his chance to challenge Dylan with a dark type team, he naturally had to wait until tomorrow.
The psychic wasn't stubborn. Dylan was very strong, and dark types are immune to his best psychic type moves. Challenging now would just be asking for trouble. It's only one more day. He didn't believe he'd draw dark type again tomorrow. I see. Rota Gym is always open for you all. Dylan smiled politely.
In that case, we'll take our leave, gym leader Dylan. The older sister and the others left. What used to be a gym specializing in dark types was now a gym of dark and ghost types.
Yeah, the difficulty had definitely increased.
And from the gym battle just now, Dylan was really skilled with ghost types. That combination of mean look plus curse plus pain split is very hard to deal with without specific counters. This gym is getting more and more ridiculous. It was already unconventional, and now it's even more so.
I'm done. You guys can go ahead without me. The karate master expert grumbled as he left the gym first, quitting the group. How about we go back and gather some more people from the group to form a team? Actually, I think if we could find a good partner, a double battle might be easier? The psychic contemplated.
Double battles were rare in Kanto, but he was originally from Hoenn, where there was a gym that specialized in double battles, so he wasn't opposed to the idea. However, double battles require good teamwork and coordination, and the teammates' skills need to be up to par, otherwise, it's just a disadvantage.
You're not afraid of a 2v2, but you don't want it to turn into a 1v3. In reality, if a teammate's Pokemon doesn't execute a move properly, it could end up hitting their own side. That would be a real disaster. That's a good idea. Let's go back and discuss it in the group. The woman agreed. 2 against 1 should be easier than 1-on-1, right? No problem at all. Meanwhile, inside Rota Gym. Oh wow, that was a very exciting gym battle, Dylan. With the way you handle challengers, no one's ever tried to wreck your gym? A lively, spirited girl's voice chimed in. Dylan looked over and saw a brown-haired unfamiliar girl smiling at him.
Her face was quite unfamiliar, but judging by her figure and height, and most importantly, her tone of voice, Dylan immediately had a guess.
Leah? Hee only you could recognize me, Dylan.
Even when I stood right in front of Red, he didn't recognize me.
Leah's smile became even brighter, her big eyes curving cutely. You didn't even give a heads up that you were coming. Dylan chuckled at Leah.
I knew your gym was here, so I just dropped by. But I have to say, Dylan, you sure are living it up here. Hiding away, and with 3 girls to keep you company. Leah winked, glancing over at the curious trio of Lily, teasing all the while.
Yep, Leah's sass was as strong as ever. Stop talking nonsense, Dylan rolled his eyes. In the backyard. Wow, life must be really nice for the heir of Sylph Company. This big yard.
Leah sprawled out on a picnic mat on the lawn, carelessly stretching out her limbs in a star shape, a look of utter relaxation on her face.
At least try to act like a proper young lady? Dylan sat down and took a sip of water, smiling at Leah.
No denying it, Leah had a great figure, not overly dramatic curves but well proportioned and shapely.
There's no one else around anyway. Leah looked contentedly at the blue sky.
The cool breeze brushing over her made her feel completely at ease. After 2 experiences working together against Team Rocket, Leah trusted Dylan quite a bit.
You ran into Red earlier? Yeah, I met him in Lavender Town.
We even dealt with Team Rocket together, and we ran into Professor Fuji there, too, Leah replied casually.
Who would have thought he was hiding out in Lavender Town?
It seems like he's there to take care of those poor Pokemon. Dr. Fuji is indeed a good person, Dylan nodded.
So, what brings you to Rota today? Dylan glanced at Leah.
He didn't believe Leah had come to Rota Street to see him for no reason.
Leah wasn't that idle. And to be honest, Leah was always someone with a strong sense of purpose. What a hurtful question. I just thought, as good friends, we should keep in touch, right? Don't you miss adorable me, Leah?
Leah turned sideways, putting on a pitiful expression, as if about to cry.
Honestly, it looked quite fake. Talk like a normal person.
Oh, actually, I've been a bit short on cash lately, so I thought I'd come see if you had any odd jobs for me to make some money. The girl sat upright obediently, in a perfect duck sitting position. Please, Master Sylph, take in this poor, homeless girl. Dylan looked at the girl, lost in thought.
All right, I remember. If you're making a sincere request, you should show some cleavage to show you're serious, right?
Leah immediately lifted her head, clutching her chest with both hands, indignant.
Dylan, you pervert. How can you make such a rude, lewd joke with an innocent girl like me? You're the one who started joking around with me. I already told you to speak normally, Dylan replied in annoyance.
I was just trying to lighten the mood. The mischievous girl changed her expression faster than flipping a page, smiling cheekily. Actually, I recently caught a few rocket grunts and managed to get some information out of them.
Oh? Is it important?
The rocket team is contacting other evil organizations from different regions.
Does that count as important? I see. Hearing this, Dylan raised an eyebrow.
Well, it wasn't surprising for the plot to develop this way. In fact, it made things more interesting. But there probably wouldn't be any big moves for now, nothing to get too excited about.
Seeing Dylan's lack of interest, Leah blinked. Aren't you curious about which organization the rocket team contacted? It's actually pretty easy to guess.
Oh? Let's hear it, Leah said, clearly skeptical. The Kanto region isn't close to other regions, let alone their evil organizations. The rocket team is ambitious, they're not interested in just any small fry, Dylan chuckled.
First, we can rule out Paldea, Galar, and Alola. Paldea doesn't even have a villainous team.
Team Star is just a group of students fighting against school bullying, and Team Yell and Galar is just Marnie's fan club. If you have to say there's a villain in Galar, it should be Chairman Rose of the Galar League, but technically, that's not quite right either.
As for Alola's Team Skull, they're just a small-time gang.
The real antagonist, Luzamon, eventually redeemed herself. Hoenn's Team Magma and Team Aqua are both too weak to be taken seriously. Their goals are laughable, and their strength is average at best.
The Rocket Team wouldn't bother with them. Dylan didn't hide his disdain for Team Magma and Team Aqua. Although they were third-generation antagonists, both Maxie and Archie were incredibly weak. Their greatest contribution was waking up Kyogre and Groudon, reigniting the battle between land and sea.
Leah actually felt a bit lost. She didn't know much about Team Magma and Team Aqua. In Sinnoh, there's Team Galactic. Cyrus has some strength, but he's a bit delusional, living in his own world.
He's unlikely to deal with the Rocket Team. Leah. In Unova, there's Team Plasma.
On the surface, Team Plasma's king, Kin, doesn't have much ambition, but Ghetsis is quite ambitious, so there's a good chance. Leah's expression changed slightly. Then there's Team Flare in Kalos.
Lysandra has his own plans, so it's unlikely he'd deal with the Rocket Team. Dylan thought for a moment.
So, the most likely organization the Rocket Team would connect with would be Unova's Team Plasma.
What else?
What else? Leah listened with great interest. There's another organization that's a bit unique, but under normal circumstances, it's actually hard to say, Dylan pondered.
He really couldn't be sure. He was referring to the Rainbow Rocket Team from Ultra Sun and Ultra Moon, an evil organization from a parallel world, led by Rainbow Giovanni.
The team's members included leaders from various villainous teams across different parallel worlds who had achieved their goals.
And all these alternate reality bosses had captured legendary Pokémon.
Well, in the game, it was Celine who took them down all at once.
Would this world be invaded by the Rainbow Rocket Team in the future? Dylan wasn't sure, especially since Celine had already appeared.
But it wouldn't be much of a problem.
Once he cleared the Alola region in the simulation and got Necrozma, then captured a few more legendary Pokémon, he could take on the Rainbow Rocket Team, one by one. Bring them all on. Yes, Dylan chose Alola as his second region. How do you know so much about the villainous organizations in other regions?
Leah asked, puzzled, and she actually wanted to ask Dylan about the Johto organization too.
Did Dylan know about them?
Don't forget who I am, Dylan shrugged.
Oh. Leah paused, realizing there was nothing wrong with that.
Sylph Company was a top-tier company worldwide, so it wasn't surprising for Dylan, as the heir, to have information about other regions. But Leah still felt it was odd. Why would a lifestyle company like Sylph Company
know so much about villainous organizations?
You were right, the Rocket Team has indeed contacted Unova's Team Plasma, Leah finally revealed. And according to my information, Team Plasma has sent a big shot to Kanto, possibly to discuss a partnership with the Rocket Team. It's that Team Plasma King you mentioned.
Leah shared her intel. Anne is in Kanto? Dylan raised an eyebrow, now that was unexpected. N, a naturally unique existence because he is the offspring of a human and a Pokémon.
And he didn't even know if this world's N was the real one or the ideal one.
Chapter 114, Just Mere Pebbles. This world is anything but ordinary. Let's not even mention the existence of Pokémon, those incredible creatures.
Among humans, there are also many special individuals who possess extraordinary abilities, even psychic powers, which can be systematically studied and learned. Some people with unique abilities can defy imagination. For example, in the Kalos region, there is a place called the Chamber of Emptiness, where a group of people live who worship Arceus, the god of creation. 100 years ago, a legendary demon Pokémon, Hoopa, ravaged a village, flaunting its immense power. It fought 1v2 against Groudon and Kyogre and came out on top, then went 1v3 against Reshiram, Zekrom, and Regigigas, still easily winning.
Its feats were utterly terrifying. And then what? Then it was sealed by an old man, a human. Yes, Hoopa's power was indeed one of the finest among the legendary Pokémon.
Yet, despite being so overwhelmingly powerful, it was actually sealed by a mere human. Its power sealed away, the once terrifying mischief Pokémon, Unbound Hoopa, became nothing more than a mischievous little creature, bound and only able to play cute tricks.
Hoopa's classification is literally mischief Pokémon, a mischief. The old man who sealed Hoopa was no ordinary person.
Not only did he possess abilities akin to basic psychic powers like telekinesis, but he could also make plants sprout and grow, essentially functioning like a human Pokémon. His power came from his devotion to Arceus. So, we could just say, Arceus is incredible, casually gifting humans a bit of power that could be used to seal Hoopa. However, humans like the one who could seal Hoopa are incredibly rare, especially since the old man's power came directly from Arceus. Most people with special abilities are just a bit more extraordinary than regular humans. There's also another, very special way for such powerful beings to be born. The combination of humans and Pokémon. Team Plasma's King N is one such special human. As a descendant of a human and a Pokémon, N was born with the ability to naturally sense the emotions of Pokémon and communicate with them. Because of this, he was selected by Getsus at a young age, adopted, and raised to eventually become king. However, this also meant that all his thoughts and ideals up until now had been manipulated by others, making him a rather tragic figure.
Dylan, do you know this king? Leah asked curiously when she saw Dylan deep in thought. I know a bit.
He's quite a unique person, Dylan replied after a moment of contemplation.
The king of an evil organization.
I wonder how strong he is, Leah said, wrinkling her innocent little face.
Team Rocket was already tough enough to deal with. During the last incident in Celadon City, even Champion Lance couldn't take down Team Rocket's leader. Now, Team Rocket was working with Team Plasma? And Team Plasma even sent their king to Kanto, which showed how seriously they were taking this collaboration.
If nothing unexpected happens, N's minimum strength would be on par with Lance, Dylan stated.
Huh?
Leah stared at him in shock, her eyes wide.
Really? Is that guy really that strong?
Lance was the strongest champion Kanto had ever seen. While it wasn't clear if he could hold the title of world's strongest champion, he was definitely one of the top-tier champions.
Could the king of Team Plasma really be that powerful? At a minimum.
If N truly gains the favor of one of the two dragons, it could be a 60-40 split if he faces off against Lance, Lance having the 40, and that's in a wild battle.
In an official battle, Lance's odds would be even lower. Dylan shook his head.
N, the rival and antagonist from the Black and White games, whose ideals, or truths, were recognized by one of the dragon gods. If either Reshiram or Zekrom acknowledged him, N would undoubtedly be a top-tier champion-level trainer. Not to mention that N himself was incredibly talented. Even without either of the dragons, he was still a legitimate champion-level trainer.
Leah was stunned. Of course, that's just my guess, Dylan added after a brief pause. The strength gap between even legendary Pokémon varies greatly.
Ordinary legends like Lugia, Ho, Reshiram, Zekrom, Solgaleo, and Lunala are no match for top-tier legends like Rayquaza, Kyurem, or Necrozma. It's almost like toys compared to them. Rayquaza can easily handle Groudon and Kyogre as if they were nothing.
Kyurem can absorb and fuse with Reshiram or Zekrom with a single move.
Necrozma in its basic form could chase down Solgaleo and Lunala from the Ultra Space to the real world, crushing them like helpless prey. In Pokémon evolutions, Necrozma easily overwhelmed Lunala in a one-on-one battle, taking a super-effective Moongeist beam like it was nothing, before forcing Lunala into fusion to become Dawnwing's Necrozma.
And that was just Necrozma in its basic form.
Trainers like Red, Lance, Giovanni, and Leon have all gone up against legendary Pokémon in the original stories, and even battled them on their own terms.
Gold, in particular, made it seem effortless to battle Ho-Oh and Lugia.
So Dylan wasn't sure if Lance could take on Zekrom or Reshiram, since he hadn't yet truly seen the strength of a legendary Pokemon in this world.
But Dylan glanced at Leah and thought to himself, yeah, Gold is probably still as broken and overpowered as he was in the Pokemon Adventures manga. And what about you, Dylan? Leah asked after a while, finally recovering her composure. She was curious about Dylan's strength. You're a champion-level trainer too, right? Leah clearly remembered how Dylan had easily defeated Athena.
You're giving me way too much credit, Dylan chuckled. If N truly awakens the dragon god, how am I supposed to fight him with what I've got? Unless that particularly fat Clefairy was willing to help him out, but Dylan wasn't sure if Mew could take on Zekrom or Reshiram.
Dylan pondered this and figured he should ask Clefairy about it sometime.
Mew hadn't shown much combat ability, except for in Mutwo Strikes Back, where it managed to suppress Mutwo.
But Mutwo was still fairly young in that movie, so Dylan didn't think Mutwo was particularly powerful back then. Dragon God? Leah tilted her head. The two dragon gods from the founding legend of Unova.
In terms of status, they're about equivalent to our Lugia and Ho-Oh, Dylan explained with a shrug.
Leah gasped.
Just hearing about them made her feel like they were incredibly powerful, but she picked up on something important.
You said now? So, Dylan, do you think you'll eventually be able to beat those dragon gods?
That's not such a difficult thing.
Even Red will be able to do it someday, Dylan raised an eyebrow. Once I summon Necrozma, those dragons will just be mere pebbles. Dylan even considered storming Unova to capture the wild Kyurem.
Even without Necrozma, if Dylan maxed out his Articuno and Darkrai, they'd be more than capable of taking down Zekrom and Reshiram in a few months. The only real issue was that the growth simulator prevented him from repeatedly battling the Elite Four. Otherwise, the raised level of the second round Elite Four would be the best tool for grinding experience.
Eh?
Leah tilted her head, confused.
What do you mean, eh? Are you really underestimating Red? Dylan chuckled. The legendary trainer from the original games wasn't a joke.
In Pokemon Origins, Red became champion of Kanto, and not long after, he went to Cerulean Cave and single-handedly captured Mutwo. Even Green had been defeated by that Mutwo.
Hee hee, you're all amazing.
Leah giggled, her big eyes sparkling. She had chosen the right people to stick with.
Some might think Dylan was bragging. After all, those were the legendary dragon gods of Unova. Saying you could beat them someday? Anyone could claim that. I'll beat Rayquaza someday too. Anyone can boast, right? But Leah believed Dylan.
She knew how quickly he grew in strength. Besides, defeating Zekrom or Reshiram didn't seem impossible to her. After all, she knew that years ago, someone had already captured Ho-Oh and Lugia. Since others could do it, why couldn't Dylan? Leah was willing to believe in her good friend, her sturdy lifeline.
And, when is he coming to Kanto? Or has he already arrived? Dylan pondered for a moment.
If he got the chance, he would really like to meet N. According to Team Rocket, he'll be here in 5 days. The king of Team Plasma will arrive in Kanto, landing in Saffron City, Leah replied after some thought.
5 days, huh? That works out. Shall we head to Saffron City when the time comes? Dylan glanced at Leah, thinking she probably came here for this very reason.
Sure, but that person is really dangerous. Dylan, you'll have to protect me, Leah playfully tapped her lips with her delicate finger, pretending to hesitate before smiling sweetly.
As long as we don't cause any trouble, there won't be any danger. Anne isn't a bad person, after all. Dylan rolled his eyes.
Although N was the king of Team Plasma, he was actually a kind-hearted man at his core, misled by Getsus' underhanded schemes down a path to darkness. So what about these next few days? A humble girl like me is ever so grateful for being taken in by the great heir of Sylph.
Leah suddenly exclaimed. When did I ever say I was taking you in? Confusedface.jpg.
I've heard for ages that the eldest son of Sylph Company is both handsome and compassionate, and seeing you today proves the rumors true. Leah, you're just too good at this, Dylan sighed deeply, genuinely impressed.
Time flew by, and it was now 4 p.m. The Rota gym had stopped accepting challengers for the day.
Dylan, along with Leah and Lily, drove away from Rota, heading towards a giant tree visible in the distance.
After about 30 minutes, the car stopped. Phew, what a beautiful view. But bro, why are we here? Lily asked as she got out of the car, glancing around before speaking with curiosity. We're here to test our luck.
Dylan pushed his sunglasses up onto his head and gazed at the massive tree of beginnings that dominated the landscape, a faint, enigmatic smile crossing his face.
Let's go. Maybe we'll run into something interesting. Dylan gestured for Leah and Lily to follow as they continued toward the Tree of Beginnings.
According to the movie, the Tree of Beginnings was connected to Mew, with the two sharing a life force.
Guardians protected the tree from outsiders, ensuring its safety.
The Guardians were the legendary Pokemon Regirock, Regice, and Registeel, collectively known as the Legendary Giants. The Tree of Beginnings had its own defense mechanisms, automatically attacking intruders.
The Regi trio drove away anyone approaching, both protecting the tree and safeguarding outsiders from its danger.
Of course, Dylan understood the risks of the Tree of Beginnings, but that wasn't his reason for coming here today. After all, the most valuable creature inside the tree was currently asleep in his backyard. After walking for about 10 minutes, the ground suddenly started to shake.
Reggie!
A cold, mechanical voice, devoid of emotion, suddenly echoed. The ground cracked open, and a Pokemon, seemingly made of rock, emerged from underground, blocking Dylan and the girl's path.
Reggie!
The Pokemon let out a warning growl, clearly trying to prevent Dylan and his group from proceeding further.
What kind of Pokemon is this?
Leah asked, her curiosity piqued as she studied the creature she had never seen before. The Pokemon's body was made entirely of gray and orange rocks, with an H pattern of 7 orange dots on its chest.
Its thick, arm-like appendages reached all the way to the ground, exuding an intimidating aura. It didn't seem like it would be easy to deal with. Dylan, is this why you brought us all the way out here?
Seeing Dylan completely unfazed by the sight of the Pokemon, Leah quickly realized that he had anticipated this encounter.
Of course.
This is Regirock, the legendary Pokemon of rock type, and one of the legendary giants, Dylan said with a slight smirk as he toyed with a Pokeball in his hand.
Is this really a legendary Pokemon? Leah and Lily were both taken aback. Wait, encountering a legendary Pokemon like this. Was it supposed to be this casual? Deep Regirock, rock type, the rock peak Pokemon. Ability, clear body.
Moves, Superpower, Stone Edge, Hammer Arm, Iron Defense, Curse, Rock Slide, Stomp, Ancient Power, Heavy Slam, Charge Beam. Description: a Pokemon made entirely of rock and stone.
Though parts of its body may break off during battle, it repairs itself by adding new rocks. It really was Regirock. Leah stared at the Pokemon in awe. This was indeed a legendary Pokemon. Reggie. Regirock let out another deep warning growl when it saw the 3 humans weren't leaving. Only one of them showed up?
That's a bit of a waste of time, now I'll have to come back for the other 2, Dylan muttered as he glanced behind Regirock, noticing no sign of Registeel or Regice.
Regirock, why don't you go call your 2 brothers over? That thing you're guarding is currently sleeping in my backyard. Wouldn't it be nice to have a little family reunion? Dylan mused, attempting to strike a deal with Regirock. Reggie? Regirock's head tilted, 3 question marks practically appearing above it. Chapter 115, I think we can talk. The H-shaped dots on Regirock's chest flickered slightly, indicating that it heard what Dylan said, though it wasn't clear whether it understood. Can't understand me? But I know, you see. Dylan, seeing Regirock's lack of reaction, spoke patiently and gently.
Registeel and Regice are also here, right?
Could you call them over? I'd like to take all of you along.
Stick with me, and I promise great treatment.
Dylan's tone was as soft as if he were casually discussing dinner plans with a friend. Lily. Is this how my brother captures Pokemon? But that's Regirock. Classic Dylan. So bold. Leah's eyes lit up,
giving Dylan a thumbs up and praising him enthusiastically.
G.I. Re-Gyrock's voice now carried some frustration. What nonsense was this human spouting? It felt insulted.
Raising its massive arms, sharp rocks appeared, preparing for a stone edge attack.
Looks like negotiations broke down.
Dylan sighed as he opened the pokeball in his hand, and Meowscarada appeared in front of him. Brother, with that approach, it'd be surprising if negotiations worked at all. Lily silently commented to herself.
G.I.
Re-Gyrock, still angry that the humans refused to leave, let out another roar and sent its stone edge flying toward them.
Guess we'll have to fight first and capture later. Dylan remained calm. Meowscarada, flower trick. Meow.
With a seductive and mischievous tone, Meowscarada swayed its hand forward, sending a flower swirling toward the incoming stones.
Boom! The flower exploded, its overwhelming energy obliterating the stone edge and scattering debris everywhere.
Realizing its attack had failed, Re-Gyrock roared again, summoning boulders for a rock slide.
Sucker punch.
Meowscarada's eyes gleamed with dark energy, transforming into a green blur as it dashed behind Re-Gyrock, claws enveloped in dark power slashing at it.
Rip!
The attack hit perfectly, but Meowscarada was startled by the sensation. This rock was tough.
It felt like its claws were about to wear down. Re-Gyrock stumbled slightly from the blow before turning and hurling its rock slide at Meowscarada again. Meowscarada elegantly dodged, its movements light and swift like a skilled dancer. Dylan, physical attacks might not work well on Re-Gyrock, Leah reminded him.
Rock-type Pokemon typically have high physical defense, and Re-Gyrock is likely exceptional even among them.
I know, that was just a test, Dylan chuckled.
He understood that Re-Gyrock's physical defense was extraordinarily high, but testing it firsthand was necessary. Now that he had a good sense of it, he knew how to proceed. Although he was aware that the 3 Regigardians at the World Tree weren't exceptionally powerful, it was important to gauge them.
G.I.
Re-Gyrock continued its rock slide, sending boulders flying toward Meowscarada, who dodged effortlessly, as if performing an elegant dance.
Brother's Meowscarada is so cool. Lily's eyes sparkled with admiration.
Energy Ball, Dylan commanded. Meowscarada raised its paw, condensing a green sphere of energy.
As another boulder approached, Meowscarada sidestepped gracefully, flinging the energy ball at Re-Gyrock. Boom!
The energy ball struck Re-Gyrock squarely in the face, forcing it back several steps.
G.I. Re-Gyrock roared in anger, though its mechanical voice remained emotionless.
More sharp stones appeared, ready for another stone edge.
Grass pledge, Dylan called out, raising an eyebrow.
This Re-Gyrock only seemed capable of using rock slide and stone edge.
Could it have dulled its intellect from staying in this place too long?
Or maybe Re-Gyrock had simply realized it couldn't catch up to Meowscarada, so it relied on long-range attacks.
Meow. Meowscarada summoned pillars of grass that shot toward Re-Gyrock, shattering the stone edge rocks and striking Re-Gyrock right in the chest. Boom!
The grass pillars hit hard, causing Re-Gyrock to crash to the ground, kicking up a cloud of dust.
Frenzy Plant, Dylan sighed, realizing this Re-Gyrock was even weaker than he'd expected.
Though it had Elite 4-level strength, it wasn't much of a challenge. He figured he could slowly train it.
Meowscarada's body glowed faintly green, and the ground began to crack open as thick vines erupted, surging toward Re-Gyrock.
The massive gray plants whipped about, creating a breathtaking and dramatic scene.
Frenzy Plant.
This powerful grass-type move was normally only accessible to grass-type starter Pokemon, with the exception of the cute little mythical Pokemon, Mew. While Frenzy Plant was incredibly strong, it caused a temporary stiffness afterward, making it best used to finish off a battle or deal a decisive blow. Re-Gyrock was now caught in the relentless barrage of the vines, unable to fight back as it let out faint cries, its voice growing weaker. Soon, as the vines retreated underground, the battlefield was left in ruins.
Re-Gyrock lay still, having fallen into a deep, peaceful sleep. Did we already defeat it? Lily stared in disbelief at the fallen Re-Gyrock. Wasn't this supposed to be a legendary Pokemon? How could it be defeated so easily? Even though she wasn't a trainer, Lily understood the significance of the term legendary Pokemon.
Yet right in front of her, a legendary Pokemon had been taken down effortlessly.
Wow, Dylan is seriously strong, Leah marveled.
Regirock is just a regular legendary Pokemon, not as powerful as people imagine, Dylan explained with a smile.
Well, maybe I shouldn't put it that way. It's not as strong as most people think, but for a champion-level trainer, this Regirock isn't very tough.
If Lance or Zinnia were here, they could defeat it just as easily.
Dylan realized his wording might have been unclear, so he clarified. Regirock's strength really depended on the trainer's skill. For an ordinary trainer, encountering this Regirock meant running away was the smartest option, as they'd stand no chance of winning. But for champion-level trainers who stand at the top of the world, a Regirock of this strength wouldn't be too difficult. However, legendary Pokemon are incredibly rare. Most ordinary trainers will go their whole lives without ever encountering one.
Not everyone is as lucky as Ash, who seems to encounter legendary Pokemon in every region he visits.
How many years did it take Lance to find and capture the trio of Regigardians? Only Lance himself likely knows the hardship he went through. And other champion-level trainers? They don't have as much free time as Lance, searching ruins and clues every day for legendary Pokemon. How many trainers are there in the world? Countless. How many legendary Pokemon exist globally? It's a finite number, actually.
Even taking into account species with populations, such as Articuno, there wouldn't be more than 5 individuals worldwide.
And how many champion-level trainers are there in the world?
Compare that, and you'll realize that although champion-level trainers are fewer than legendary Pokemon, the numbers are close globally. For humans, encountering a legendary Pokemon is extremely difficult, and even when they do, most lack the ability to capture it.
Speaking of which, when Ash comes to challenge the Rota Gym, will he draw a legendary Pokemon right away? Dylan suddenly thought of this, recalling Ash's incredible luck in encountering legendary Pokemon. It's no joke. Pokeball, go. Dylan tossed aside that thought for now. They would find out soon enough. The Ultra Ball flew through the air, hitting the weakened Regirock, which transformed into red light and was absorbed into the ball. Beep. The Ultra Ball shook once.
Dylan looked calm, Leah was brimming with excitement, while Lily watched the Ultra Ball with bated breath, nervously hoping for a successful capture.
Beep. The Ultra Ball shook again, but then pop. It broke open, and Regirock reappeared, lying on the ground. Ha! The capture failed. Lily was a bit disappointed. It's no big deal.
The subconscious struggle of legendary Pokemon is intense, so no rush. Dylan pulled out a box from his bag, opening it to reveal rows of shrunken Ultra Balls, completely empty. Carrying 200 Ultra Balls, Dylan was well prepared.
If it can break free 200 times, I'd like to see it try.
Dylan knew from experience that capturing legendary Pokemon in the games was no easy task, but these Ultra Balls weren't even something he'd specifically prepared in advance, they were just what he typically carried.
Isn't it normal to stock up on extra Pokeballs when you can afford it? Lily, Leah, ugh, filthy rich people.
By dusk, after 35 Ultra Balls, Regirock finally stopped struggling, and the Ultra Ball clicked into place.
Regirock, captured. Yay! Brother, you're amazing.
Lily was overjoyed, and although her upbringing kept her from jumping up and down, her flushed cheeks and bubbling excitement made it clear how thrilled she was.
Congratulations, Dylan, on capturing a legendary Pokemon.
After some training, your strength will grow even more, Leah said with a bright smile, congratulating Dylan. This was Regirock, and Leah was confident that after undergoing Dylan's special training regimen, it would quickly become one of his main battle Pokemon.
Thanks. But it's a shame. Dylan picked up the Ultra Ball and, while caressing it, sounded a bit regretful. In the end, Regice and Registeel still hadn't appeared. How could they be so heartless? Their brother was about to be taken away, and they didn't even show up to check. It was a moral decline.
Dylan actually wanted to explore the other side of the world tree, hoping to bump into Regice or Regis Teal, but it was already getting late.
Maybe he'd return tomorrow?
Still, it was unfortunate that Regidrago and Regieleki weren't sealed in Kanto. Those two would have been Dylan's best picks. Regidrago, with its powerful dragon energy and the ability Dragon's Maw, and Regieleki, one of the fastest Pokemon, with the exceptional transistor ability, were both incredible. Their power and strength couldn't even be compared to the three older Regi siblings. There was simply no competition. Dylan knew that Regidrago and Regieleki had been sealed away in the Crown Tundra by the ancient Galar people, but he didn't have the time to search for them.
Let's go. Today's haul has been good enough. Dylan pocketed Regirock's Ultra Ball, ready to head back for a proper training session.
Just then, a pink light shot through the sky at high speed.
Ha! What's that?
Lily, looking dazed, gazed at the pink light streaking through the sky like a meteor.
Wait, was it coming their way?
No, it was heading straight toward them.
Dylan. No way, right?
The pink light soon hovered above them before gently descending.
Mew!
A sweet but furious cry rang out as the pink light faded, revealing a Clefairy with a noticeable beer belly. Its body glowed with a faint blue light, radiating such an oppressive aura that even breathing became difficult.
The air itself seemed to thicken and weigh down on them. Mew!
Who dares to steal my guardian?
The Clefairy's enraged cry echoed as it glared at the three humans who had dared to pull off such a bold act.
Just moments ago, it had been napping comfortably in the shade, with an Articuno cooling it with a breeze. Suddenly, it had felt a disturbance, and after sensing its surroundings, it discovered that someone had stolen its guardian.
The aura of the rock guardian had vanished.
Without hesitation, it rushed over. As those three goofballs had been a heartfelt gift from the big boss, it couldn't just let them be taken away.
But then... Mew?
Upon seeing the humans clearly, the blue light around Clefairy's body dissipated, and it tilted its head in shock, staring at Dylan.
Dylan. Chapter 116, never mind then. How should I put this?
Dylan did feel quite awkward at the moment, but it wasn't too big of a deal.
Isn't this Clefairy from my brother's yard? Lily thought, recognizing the chubby Clefairy.
After all, you don't often see one this round outside.
Oh? Little one, what brings you here? Dylan feigned surprise as he looked at the Clefairy before him. Me?
Clefairy floated slowly toward Dylan, staring at him with large, suspicious eyes.
It seemed certain.
The aura of the rock guardian had disappeared from this place, and Clefairy had no doubt Dylan was capable of capturing it.
But how could it be? That rock guardian was left behind as a gift by its dear friend. Meow meow? I don't understand what you're saying. Dylan gently pinched Clefairy's ear, laughing. Did you capture that big, dumb rock guardian?
The sudden sound of a crisp, sweet voice, like that of a young girl, echoed in the ears of the trio.
This voice? Was it telepathy? Lily stared in astonishment at the peculiar Clefairy. It had to be coming from it.
Leah's eyes narrowed. Something about this Clefairy was definitely off.
You finally decided to use telepathy, huh? Dylan wasn't surprised. For legendary Pokemon like Mew, telepathy was something they should naturally possess.
But to them, there often wasn't a reason to use it.
You haven't answered my question, Dylan. Did you capture the rock guardian? You mean Regirock? Yeah, meow.
Yep, just caught it.
Impressive, right? Dylan pulled out Regirock's Ultra Ball, waving it with a smile. Clefairy tilted its head. It could indeed sense Regirock inside that Pokeball.
Now this was a bit troublesome. Clefairy had grown quite fond of Dylan, after all this time of eating, sleeping, and playing with him.
He almost felt like its owner.
But when it came to Regirock...
We were just wandering around when we suddenly came across Regirock. What luck, right? Clefairy. What's wrong? Is there an issue? Dylan asked curiously, seeing Clefairy deep in thought. Meow Dylan, could you put the rock guardian back? Clefairy asked after some consideration. Its thoughts weren't that complicated. Regirock was left by its dear friend to guard the tree of beginning, a precious gift. This is something I caught on my own. You'll have to give me a reason, Dylan raised an eyebrow. Because it's guarding the tree of beginning.
Long ago, the Guardian left Regirock and its siblings to guard and protect the tree, just in case someone wandered into it or harmed it, Clefairy explained as if it were the most natural thing.
With Clefairy's power, it didn't need Regirock's protection. Regirock and the others were there to prevent ordinary people from accidentally entering the tree of beginning.
The tree had its own defense mechanisms, and once someone was swallowed by it, they wouldn't be coming back.
The tree of beginning? Leah and Lily were unfamiliar with this name. But looking at the enormous tree in the distance, was that it? And were Regirock and its siblings specifically created by some Pokemon to protect the tree of beginning? That was a lot to take in. Is it protecting that giant tree? Dylan chuckled softly. Clefairy blinked its big eyes and nodded, looking quite adorable.
The inside of the tree of beginning is really dangerous, meow. Keeping people from entering is also a way to protect them. Clefairy's telepathic voice was sweet and crisp, sounding like a human girl of about 7 or 8 years old.
That's not really secure, Dylan shook his head. On the way here, he had thought about this issue.
Though it was called the Tree of Beginning, it wasn't a tree in the true sense but rather a rock-like crystal structure with tree-like features, possessing its own consciousness. It coexisted with Mew, and unless a champion-level trainer attacked the tree from the outside with all their might, it was unlikely that anything would happen to it. But the Tree of Beginning had an automatic defense mechanism, similar to the human immune system. It would instinctively destroy or swallow anyone who entered it. And in the movies, Mew became extremely weak after using its power to rescue Ash and the others from the tree's defenses. Due to their symbiotic relationship, the Tree of Beginning became equally weakened as a result.
Meow? Clefairy tilted its head in confusion. Can the three of them really guard the entire perimeter of the Tree of Beginning?
My little friend, here's an idea, Dylan said, lifting Clefairy with a warm smile.
I'll buy all the land in this area.
That way, this whole region will become my private property, and no one will be able to enter.
Clefairy was stunned. Although it was innocent, it wasn't clueless. If Dylan truly bought this land, then everything on it would belong to him. Wait, wouldn't that mean the Tree of Beginning and I would belong to him too? And then I'll hire a team to patrol the perimeter.
That way, we can make sure no one trespasses into the Tree of Beginning.
How does that sound? That would cost an astronomical amount of money, right? Leah and Lily were stunned. How much money would that cost?
The Tree of Beginning alone occupied a huge area, not to mention the surrounding region.
Oh, right, Dylan is the heir of Sylph Company. Never mind then. Ugh, how awful. Filthy rich people. You're buying all this land just to make a Clefairy happy?
Not bad, Dylan, you're such a good person. Meow. Clefairy's eyes lit up, and it smiled warmly.
Even if Regirock patrolled day and night, there would still be times when it couldn't cover everything. But if the area became Dylan's private property, they would have the legitimate authority to prevent anyone from entering. Isn't that great? Dylan smiled. Very good. As long as you're alive, there shouldn't be any more intruders, meow.
I hope you live a long life and don't die too soon, meow.
Clefairy's innocent telepathy, in the voice of a young girl, could sometimes be a bit blunt.
Dylan's smile froze for a moment, as he reminded himself it wasn't worth getting upset over a child's remark.
So about Regirock. Dylan brought up the Rock Guardian again.
But Regirock was a gift from my dear friend, meow.
Clefairy gnawed on its little paw, clearly torn. On one hand was its beloved caretaker, and on the other was its friend's precious gift. Hey, cutie, didn't you say you ran out of tuna cans? I'll buy you 10 more boxes. Really? But... Mew's big watery eyes lit up, though there was still a bit of hesitation. 20 boxes. Wah-ah. Dylan, you're so bad.
This would be unfair to the Rock Guardian.
Mew whimpered. 30 boxes. Actually, the Rock Guardian isn't that important, meow. It's always mischievous. It's normal if it gets lost, meow. Seriously, it loves running off. Mew spoke seriously. What Rock Guardian? The Rock Guardian got lost hundreds of years ago. All it had now were the Steel Guardian and the Ice Guardian, meow. By the way, how many boxes of tuna cans could the Steel Guardian and the Ice Guardian be traded for? No, I can't. I'm awful for even thinking that. After all, they're the guardians left behind by the big guardian to protect the tree of beginning, meow. And there are already 30 boxes, woohoo. Leah, wow. Lily. What did they just witness? So filthy. Dylan, when will the tuna cans arrive, meow? Mew sat on Dylan's shoulder, pulling his hair eagerly as she asked. Tomorrow morning, I guess. I'll arrange it when we get back, Dylan rolled his eyes. But I want to eat some tonight, meow. Mew's gaze turned sorrowful, her voice weak and spiritless. I'll have someone check if there's a nearby store selling some. Hee hee Dylan, you're the best, meow. I remember telling you to take it easy last time. Look at your belly. It's gotten bigger again. Dylan, you're talking nonsense. I haven't gained weight. My belly just stuck out on its own. Mew protested unconvincingly, her usual meow quirk gone from her speech. Dylan fell into thought. At this rate, he wondered if Mew might actually be unable to fly one day. The three of them, along with Mew, left the area of the Tree of Beginning. By the time they drove back to Rhoda, it was nearly dark. Dear Father, recently, I've been wanting to buy a large piece of land and need your financial assistance. After sending this message to his father, Dylan quickly received a notification. Seeing the endless number of zeros in his account, he nodded in satisfaction. As expected from his father. Reliable. Then, Dylan contacted President Charles Goodshow. Although purchasing land should be handled by a specialized department, with Charles Goodshow's influence, the process would naturally be faster, cutting out a lot of unnecessary steps, which was obviously better. With Regirock now captured, the golden section can become 3 versus 3. Dylan mused. This was certainly good news, though he was a bit disappointed. Aside from Richie drawing a golden legendary lineup once, no one else had managed to get it again. That 1% probability really was too small. Dylan wasn't planning to increase that probability either. After all, the golden legend was just an Easter egg. He hoped the next lucky person would appear soon. Dylan had also asked his father for help with the ghost-type Pokemon. He hadn't been able to visit the northern village as he had wanted. Area 0 in Paldea is also worth visiting. Who knows, I might be lucky enough to pick up a motorbike. Dylan thought about Area 0 in Paldea. The Paradox Pokemon in there weren't weak, especially the strongest Paradox species, Paradise Guardian Dragons Koraidon and Miraidon. The world is so big, and there are many places he wanted to visit. But for now, he would take it one step at a time. Dylan looked at his phone. It had been a long time since he had checked the gym reviews. He opened the website and browsed through them. Very good, very good. Dylan has been absent from the gym for several days, and the gym has successfully evolved from the evil gym to the evil ghost gym. Congratulations! Smile.jpg. This spinning mechanism is pure genius. I'm a fighting type specialist, how am I supposed to fight ghost types? It's disgusting. I heard such amazing things online, so I went to challenge it this afternoon. It was a bit tough but not too much, just the normal level for a gym. I easily won with my grass-type team. I recommend others give it a try. As a lady, I've always believed that Rhoda Gym is the beacon of the Kanto region. A gym as warm and sunny as Rhoda Gym is the moral standard for all gyms. Strongly recommend everyone to challenge it. You're overdoing it. While I also believe Rhoda Gym is excellent, such words are inappropriate. Today, I challenged the Dark Purple team, and I'm really grateful for Dylan's guidance. Smile.jpg.
I came from Sinnoh to challenge gyms in Kanto, and I must say, Rota Gym is more worth challenging than any gym in Sinnoh.
There's a new surprise every day. Dylan nodded in satisfaction. It seemed everyone still loved Rota Gym.
Once the Ghost-type team was fully formed, he would prepare the next surprise for them.
Chapter 117, They Don't Need to Evolve. 3 more days passed. Reggie. Re-Gyrock panted heavily, staring in confusion at the Drapion-like figure in front of it. Why is this guy so tough? Is my attack really that weak?
Re-Gyrock turned its gaze toward the shade of a tree nearby, where a chubby Clefairy was happily munching on canned fish with squinting eyes.
Re-Gyrock was speechless.
It wasn't dumb, it knew that this chubby Clefairy was actually Mew in disguise.
But shouldn't Mew be helping it? After all, it was captured by this human to protect the Tree of Beginning. Re-Gyrock suddenly felt like it had been sold out, although it had no proof. Re-Gyrock, you still need to work harder. Next up is special defense training. Reggie. Re-Gyrock was confident. Its rock-hard, battle-hardened body was its pride and joy. Great. You've got spirit. Let's start with Drapion's water-type attacks. First, try a physical water-type move, and then switch to a special attack. Dylan nodded in satisfaction. After being captured, Re-Gyrock didn't particularly resist him, which was a pleasant surprise. Once you're stronger, I'll take you back to the Tree of Beginning to show your brothers how powerful you've become. Reggie. Re-Gyrock felt even more motivated. Drapion, use liquidation. Water ripples surged around Drapion as it rushed toward Re-Gyrock. Re-Gyrock mimicked Drapion's earlier stance, not using any special moves, but blocking with its arms, ready to take the hit head-on. Physical defense doesn't need much special training. Focus on special defense and reaction speed. Dylan pondered Re-Gyrock's training plan. Even the sneaky strikes from Meowstic couldn't do much damage to Re-Gyrock, showing that its physical defense was exceptional. But its reaction speed and special defense were average at best, and as for movement speed, well, that was a lost cause. Re-Gyrock was destined for a defensive counterattacking strategy. Hello? The phone rang suddenly, and Dylan's eyes lit up as he answered. He immediately went to the transport room, where 6 Pokeballs had just been delivered. I didn't expect so many, Dylan said, surprised as he looked at the 6 Pokeballs in his hand. Returning to the backyard, he decided to open all 6 Pokeballs. Woo! Gow! Soft, fox-like growls and sweet, youthful cries rang out as 6 Pokemon appeared in front of Dylan. These were 6 fox-like Pokemon, 5 of which were small, white foxes with fluffy fur on their heads and tails. Their eyes were a gradient from blue to white, and the insides of their ears were deep blue, making them very cute and beautiful. These were 5 Alolan Vulpix. And standing before them was a large, ice-blue fox with long, flowing fur on its head and a fluffy, majestic tail. Its gem-like eyes were mesmerizing. It was an Alolan Ninetales. Deep Ninetales, Alolan form, Ice/Fairy type, Fox Pokemon. Ability, Snow Warning. Moves, Dazzling Gleam, Ice Beam, Aurora Beam, Confuse Ray, Blizzard, Nasty Plot, Psychic, Aurora Veil. Description, gentle in nature. Before people realized it was the regional form of Ninetales, they revered it as a deity. Alolan form. Deep Vulpix, Alolan form, Ice-type, Fox Pokemon. Ability, Snow Warning. Moves, Aurora Beam, Confuse Ray, Icy Wind, Ice Shard, Disable, Moonblast, Egg Move. Description. If you approach it too casually because of its cuteness, the leader of the pack, Ninetales, will appear and freeze you solid. Alolan form. Deep Vulpix, Alolan form. Dylan listened as Rotom Dex explained. Out of the 5 Alolan Vulpix, 2 had the Snow Warning ability, while 3 had the Snow Cloak ability. The Alolan Ninetales also had the Snow Warning ability. That's right, Blue had directly sent over an entire Alolan Ninetales family. At this moment, the Alolan Vulpix were huddled around the Alolan Ninetales, with expressions ranging from curiosity to fear. The Alolan Ninetales, on the other hand, watched Dylan warily. Don't be afraid. You must know, right?
You were being harassed by poachers, and someone rescued you. Dylan smiled warmly at the Alolan Ninetales, letting the power of his Viridian bond seep out, easing the lead Ninetales' wariness. Meanwhile, the more lively and outgoing Vulpix were already starting to edge toward Dylan curiously.
This place is very safe. You don't need to worry.
There will be no more danger here, Dylan spoke softly.
Woo!
Alolan Ninetales, being much more mature, let out a low, questioning cry toward Dylan.
Don't worry, I know you like the cold.
There's an artificial snow mountain not far from here.
Let me take you there. Dylan smiled.
Alolan Vulpix and Ninetales were ice-type Pokémon that naturally loved the cold and usually lived in snowy mountains.
Dylan, of course, hadn't overlooked this.
His backyard was huge, divided into several areas, and one of those areas was specially designed for ice-type Pokémon. There was even an artificial snow mountain, crafted by none other than Articuno itself.
You can live here for now, and later I'll give you an even bigger snow mountain. Dylan had already come up with a plan.
He had spent a lot of money acquiring the land near the Tree of Beginning, and he didn't want it to go to waste.
He could easily turn the area around the Tree of Beginning into a paradise for Pokémon. Though the Tree of Beginning viewed humans as viruses, it was much kinder to Pokémon, and its defense mechanisms didn't target them. Gao!
Clearly, the Alolan Vulpix were excited at the sight of the snow mountain, and the Alolan Ninetales looked at the children affectionately, giving a grateful cry to Dylan.
No need to thank me, Dylan nodded with a smile. Blue, I've already got the team for our next battle.
I hope you like the combination of Alolan Ninetales and Articuno.
Another day passed in the blink of an eye.
There were quite a few challengers these past few days, though none of them were particularly impressive.
I wonder when Blue will challenge me for the second time. A strong challenger like that is interesting.
Though it's also fun to deal with the cute challengers, part of the enjoyment comes from the fact that Dylan was using a standard lineup. Watching those challengers grit their teeth in frustration, their faces turning pale from the challenge, filled Dylan with a sense of satisfaction. They were feeling his love, which was amusing.
Otherwise, if it were just regular battles, Dylan might get bored.
It's no wonder most gym leaders in the original story had side jobs.
If they didn't, and just spent all their time dealing with challengers, who wouldn't get tired of it?
A side job helps keep life exciting. After all, the number of outstanding and powerful challengers who really impress is quite small. No wonder Faulkner, the Sinnoh gym leader from Sunnyshore City, got so burned out. As a gym leader at an Elite 4 level, facing weak challengers all the time must be incredibly boring. The handsome Dylan gym leader will be away for the next 2 days. Challengers, please return later to challenge the gym. Dylan hung the sign up again, satisfied, and slung his backpack over his shoulder. Let's go. Dylan called out to Leah and Lily. Brother, are you sure this is okay? Can gym leaders really take time off? Lily asked, surprised as her image of gym leaders was reshaped once again. Of course. Your brother became a gym leader to enjoy life, not to be some corporate drone. Who works without any days off? No normal person would do that. Dylan replied with confidence, leaving Lily unable to find a reason to refute him. But it seemed there was really nothing to refute. Dylan was indeed a very responsible and good gym owner. Let's go, two beautiful ladies, I'll take you for a drive. Dylan tossed his backpack into the luxury car, took his place in the driver's seat, and signaled for Leah and Lily to get in. Hee, I really am benefiting from the young master's generosity. Leah, you're really cunning. Leah stretched her long legs and sat in the passenger seat, while Lily pouted. She also wanted to sit in the passenger seat with Dylan. Let's go. With a press of the accelerator, the car sped away. Pallet Town, a legendary place for those who loved Pokémon in their past life. The starting point of the first generation, and so it was in the anime, while in reality, Pallet Town was an ordinary rural town, but not so ordinary because the famous Professor Oak's research lab was located there. The name Pallet symbolizes the pure white color of a journey's beginning, which is quite meaningful. And now, Dylan and the others had arrived at Pallet Town.
Pallet Town. Looking at the town scenery along the way, Leah's usually bright and lively eyes held a hint of complexity. She should have grown up healthily in this town and set out to become a trainer. But because of that incident, she lost her childhood, and after escaping from that organization, she found that her parents had already moved away from Pallet Town. Soon, the car stopped at the iconic large windmill research lab. Dylan parked the car and took Leah and Lily to knock on the lab's door. In no time, a researcher in a white lab coat opened the door. Unlike in the anime, Professor Oak's lab actually had some assistants. "Hello, I'm Dylan, I have an appointment with Professor Oak to visit today," Dylan said politely. "Oh, Mr. Dylan, please come in," the assistant replied, gesturing for Dylan and the others to enter. "The professor is giving the Pokemon a health check in the backyard, I'll take you there." The assistant was quite welcoming. Professor Oak was well known, and many visitors came, so the assistants were used to it. Upon entering the backyard of Professor Oak's lab, although it was just a research lab, the backyard was quite spacious. Professor Oak also took care of the Pokemon sent back by the trainers in Pallet Town, especially since this year, his two grandsons, Blue and Gary, had both set out on their journeys. However, both Blue and Gary had captured many Pokemon, and normally a trainer would only carry 6 main Pokemon, so the extra Pokemon were left to Professor Oak for care. Not long after entering the backyard, an elderly man with a stout build, gray-white short hair, and wearing a white lab coat appeared in front of them, currently conducting a health check on a Machoke. "Professor, Mr. Dylan has come to visit you," the assistant said to Professor Oak. "Dylan? Oh, Liam, come over here and check Machoke." Professor Oak paused at the mention of Dylan, then immediately remembered. He stood up, washed his hands in a nearby bucket, and spoke to the assistant. "Hello, Professor Oak." Dylan slightly bowed to show respect as Professor Oak approached, and Leah and Lily quickly greeted him as well. There's no need to be so polite, I'm just an ordinary old man," Professor Oak said with a hearty laugh, his demeanor very kind. Although he was not young anymore, he showed no signs of aging, but rather seemed full of energy. "I've heard from Blue and Gary about you, gym leader Dylan. Blue has a very high opinion of you." Professor Oak looked at Dylan with great interest. He knew his grandsons well, both Blue and Gary were quite arrogant. Especially Blue, it was curious that a gym could make him face defeat while still holding him in high regard. After all, Giovanni of the Viridian Gym was only rated not bad by Blue. "Blue is a very strong challenger, I have a deep impression of him." Dylan chuckled lightly. "Professor Oak, just call me Dylan, I'm actually a fan of yours." "Ha ha ha, alright, Dylan." Professor Oak patted Dylan on the shoulder. "That kid Blue's talent far exceeds mine when I was young, but his personality is too proud. I'm really worried, he's had to suffer a loss at your place, so I really have to thank you," Professor Oak said with a hearty laugh. He wanted to correct Blue's overly arrogant nature, but there was no way. He originally expected Blue to possibly lose to Red in a crucial battle, and he truly worried that the proud Blue wouldn't be able to handle the result. But now that another peer trainer had defeated Blue, Professor Oak sincerely believed this was a good thing for Blue. Come, let's go into the research lab. Dylan, I know your purpose for coming, I happen to have taken them in a while ago." Professor Oak clapped his hands, leading Dylan and the others into the lab. "In fact, I've always wanted to find a suitable trainer for them. If it's you, Dylan, I think it should be fine." Professor Oak brought them to the guest room, then went to another room to retrieve 2 Pokeballs. When the Pokeballs were opened by Professor Oak, 2 beams of white light flashed. "Pikachu? EV." 2 adorable cries sounded as a Pikachu and an EV appeared on the table, curiously looking at Dylan and the others. "Actually, I'm quite curious, how did you know I had these 2 Pokemon here?" Professor Oak looked at Dylan with curiosity. "This Pikachu and this EV cannot evolve, and I've conducted professional tests showing that their strength is much higher than that of ordinary Pikachu and EV. This is quite difficult to understand." Professor Oak rested his chin on his hand. He had been studying them for some time but still couldn't discover the reason behind this situation, as if this Pikachu and EV were simply unique individuals. Professor Oak, they don't need to evolve. Dylan stood up and walked in front of Pikachu and Eevee, wearing a gentle smile.
He gently rubbed the little creatures' heads with his fingers glowing with a bit of green light. It felt very comfortable.
Dylan placed 2 prepared small hats on Pikachu and Eevee's heads. They are the best partner Pokemon. Chapter 118, N. Dylan looked at his adorable partners, Pikachu and Eevee, with a warm smile on his face. Both Pikachu and Eevee curiously touched their new hats, fascinated by them.
Yes, Pokemon have always been humanity's best partners. However, Professor Oak clearly misunderstood Dylan's meaning.
He was deeply moved and emotionally remarked, "They truly are the best partner Pokemon."
Professor Oak, a leading authority in Pokemon research, primarily studies the relationship between humans and Pokemon.
It's no exaggeration to say that Oak has made tremendous contributions to understanding the bond between humans and Pokemon.
It was Professor Oak who classified Pokemon types and created the Pokédex, giving the public a deeper understanding of these creatures.
One could say that Professor Oak's contributions to the coexistence of Pokemon and humans are monumental, solidifying his legacy in history. Dylan. What's up, Professor? Dylan looked curiously at Professor Oak, who seemed a bit hesitant. Ahem, I heard from President Goodshow that you captured an Articuno? Professor Oak's eyes gleamed with excitement. After all, Articuno is a legendary Pokemon.
Yes, would you like to take a closer look at it, Professor Oak?
Dylan instantly understood Oak's interest and asked with a smile. Absolutely. I've always wanted to study an Articuno up close.
If it's you, Professor, that's not a problem, Dylan replied without hesitation. After all, it was merely allowing Oak to observe the data of his Articuno. Besides, Professor Oak had just entrusted him with 2 Pokemon, so this small request was hardly a big deal.
Oh, thank you so much, Dylan. Oak was elated, his passion for learning about Pokemon always burning bright. Legendary Pokemon are so rare and mysterious.
I've always wanted to study them but never had the opportunity, Oak lamented. Even during his adventurous youth, he rarely encountered legendary Pokemon.
Shall we head to the backyard, Professor Oak? Dylan playfully teased his cute partner, Pikachu, before smiling at Oak.
The group headed to the backyard, though Leah didn't follow as she still had a lingering fear of bird Pokemon.
She stayed behind to sip tea. Let's go. Oak eagerly agreed. Once in the backyard, Dylan released Articuno. Yow! The legendary bird appeared, and immediately Articuno looked at the older man circling it, bewildered. Oh wow, that sheen! That posture! Those feathers! My goodness, it's stunning! Dylan, can I check whether this Articuno is male or female? Huh? Why does it feel colder all of a sudden? Is this because of Articuno?
They say it can cool the air with a flap of its wings.
How fascinating!
Oak marveled, now armed with a ruler and magnifying glass, excited beyond measure. A visible tick mark appeared on Articuno's forehead, clearly signaling a chill in the air. Professor, perhaps you should take it easy, Dylan cautiously suggested. Right, I suppose Articuno wouldn't be too happy about this, Oak mused. My Articuno is actually a bit larger and more developed than most, Dylan added with a smile, so don't take its measurements as the standard for all Articuno.
Of course. I can see that. Still, it's a valuable comparison, Oak replied, excitedly measuring Articuno's various attributes. The current Pokédex data for Articuno wasn't entirely accurate. The data is constantly updated in real time.
Based on previous footage, Articuno was estimated to be about 1.7 meters tall.
However, Dylan's Articuno was clearly over 2 meters tall, with a wingspan likely stretching 4 to 5 meters.
Its size was quite different, but that's not unusual as individual Pokemon can vary.
Oak understood this well. Alright, my little cuties, I'll be your trainer from now on. Please take care of me. As Professor Oak became completely absorbed in Articuno's beauty, Dylan squatted down and spoke gently to Pikachu and Eevee. Eevee. Pikachu. Clearly, both were happy to accept Dylan as their trainer.
"I'll take good care of you and help you grow stronger," Dylan said, his smile growing.
Beep Pikachu, Electric type, Mouse Pokemon. Ability, Static. Moves, Quick Attack, Feint, Electro Ball, Double Team, Thunder Wave, Nuzzle, Thunderbolt, Volt Tackle, Inherited. Description: it has small electric sacs on its cheeks. When threatened, it discharges electricity. Beep EV, Normal type, Evolution Pokemon. Ability, Adaptability. Moves, Swift, Baby Doll Eyes, Quick Attack, Covet, Helping Hand, Wish, Detect, Inherited. Description: due to its unstable genes, Eevee has multiple evolution possibilities. However, its population is quite small. Dylan glanced at their Pokédex entries and nodded in satisfaction. Of course, the Pokédex could only identify known information. Dylan knew that he would slowly unlock their full potential, including their partner moves, but that would take time. "Who would have thought I'd end up with a Pikachu after all?" he mused while feeding his partner Pikachu some delicious biscuits. Although he had a special fondness for the little electric mouse, given Pikachu's importance in the Pokemon anime, it wasn't originally part of his plan to catch one. But now that Pikachu was his partner, he was fully committed to nurturing it. After spending about half a day at Professor Oak's lab, Dylan, Oak, and their group bid farewell. They needed to head to Saffron City, so they couldn't linger. "I never expected Professor Oak to be such a kind senior," Dylan remarked as they left. On the car, Lily was holding her adorable partner, Eevee, blinking her bright big eyes. After spending half a day together, she had a very good impression of the world-renowned Professor Oak. He was kind and humorous, making him easy to get along with. Right? That's just how Professor Oak is. Almost no one who has met him dislikes him. In fact, in the industry, you hardly hear anyone speak ill of Professor Oak. If anyone did, it would only be that old lady. Dylan, who was driving the car, laughed as he replied. Oak was kind to others and had a great sense of humor. Who would want to slander such a senior? After all, Oak didn't seek fame or profit, nor did he interfere with others' interests. He usually stayed secluded in Pallet Town, focused on his research. But there was indeed an old lady who would gossip about Oak. It was more because she was dissatisfied with the choices Oak made back then. After all, it's Professor Oak. Speaking of which, Dylan, why did you put hats on Pikachu and Eevee? Leah had been staring at her partner Pikachu for a while, and couldn't help but cuddle with it. She curiously asked Dylan. Because they look really cute with hats, Dylan replied with a smile. They are super cute. Lily agreed wholeheartedly. Her Eevee was now napping on her lap, its fluffy tail swaying, looking absolutely adorable. "We should arrive in Saffron City before 6 o'clock, though we haven't received any updates yet," Dylan said, checking the time. It was now 1 p.m. According to the intelligence Leah had gathered earlier, Anne was expected to fly to Saffron City from Unova today, but the exact flight time was still unknown. However, Dylan had already sent people to stake out at the airport, having informed them of Anne's general appearance. As soon as Anne appeared at the airport, they would notify him immediately. Anne had a strikingly handsome appearance, coupled with his long green hair, making him easy to recognize. Saffron City, with its towering buildings, was the leading city in the Kanto region. The headquarters of one of the world's top corporations, Sylph Company, was also located in Saffron City. The name saffron refers to the dazzling golden color. Saffron City is not only the central business hub of the Kanto region but also boasts the largest infrastructure in the area. One could say that Saffron City is the economic center of the Kanto region. The Saffron Gym is also one of the official gyms in Kanto. The current gym leader, Sabrina, is not only a powerful psychic-type expert but also a psychic herself. Unlike those third-rate psychics who can't even control chopsticks with their powers, Sabrina is extraordinarily strong. In the Kanto region, Sabrina is an idol and the aspiration of all psychics. There's even a fan club dedicated to her. Unfortunately, Sabrina has never acknowledged her fans. Today, however, Saffron City welcomed two very special visitors, special in every sense of the word. Outside Saffron City Airport. It's quite a lively scene, wouldn't you agree, N?
A tall, scholarly-looking young man, draped in a white coat resembling a researcher's outfit and wearing glasses, spoke to the young man who was slowly approaching from behind. The young man had an exceptionally handsome face, wore a black cap, and had long green hair tied back, falling down his back. He was slender. This was N, the king of Team Plasma. N walked silently to the side of the blond young man, staring at Saffron City before him. His eyes were special, there was a certain dullness, a grayness in them, devoid of any light.
You're really indifferent to this city, aren't you, N? This is your first time in another region, isn't it?
The meticulous blond man pushed his glasses up, watching N with amusement. Kores, father sent us to Kanto, not for sightseeing, N said calmly.
That's true, but our partner here is Team Rocket.
Rumor has it that Team Rocket is an evil organization.
What do you think about that, N? No problems? Kores hadn't given up.
A slight smirk played on his lips as he asked N again. N frowned slightly, but his expression quickly returned to calm.
Does the dark scientist Kores care about such things? Don't misunderstand, Lord N. I certainly don't care, but isn't your ideal to create a world where your friends are free and happy? Collaborating with an evil organization that steals others' Pokemon, is that fine with you? Kores's tone was mocking, as if N's title of king didn't faze him at all.
N was born special, with the innate ability to hear the voices and emotions of Pokemon.
People considered him a monster, until Getsus took him in.
To N, Pokemon were his friends. But Team Rocket, on the other hand, was an organization that stole others' Pokemon. Kores found it amusing that N would agree to cooperate with them.
Hearing Kores's words, N fell silent once again.
His already dim eyes seemed to darken even further, something Kores noticed with keen interest, and his smile grew. Father said this is a necessary step toward realizing my ideals. Ideals are not so easily achieved, N said softly.
I see, Kores responded, feigning understanding.
Let's go, Kores, N said, his tone flat, as he slowly walked forward. A shadow passed over N, as a cloud drifted by overhead.
A large, dragon-like silhouette appeared faintly in the sky. Tisk, what a pitiful man, Kores muttered, watching N's retreating back.
He adjusted his glasses again, the glare from the lenses obscuring his eyes.
Getsus.
Truly a sinful man, Kores mocked, though he harbored no strong feelings about it.
After all, he was now part of Team Plasma. He chosen by the Dragon of Ideals.
This proves that his conviction and belief in his ideals are absolutely pure. But were those ideals truly born after he saw the world for what it is?
Chapter 119, How Beautiful It Is. Dylan and his two companions arrived in Saffron City at dusk.
According to the information from Dylan's informants, N had also arrived in Saffron City that afternoon.
One suite, please. The three of them checked into a hotel and booked a suite. It was already late, so they knew they'd need to rest for the night. After resting in the room for a while, Dylan headed to the training ground in the hotel's backyard.
Though the world clearly separates daily life from trainers, high-end hotels like this one typically have training grounds and battle areas.
Buoy. Pikachu. Meow. Dylan released his Pokemon.
Meanwhile, a certain plump Clefairy had already eaten its fill and was now sound asleep in his bag. That's right, Dylan had brought his Clefairy along on this trip as well.
Eat as much as you can.
Growing stronger requires good health, Dylan smiled, gently rubbing Pikachu's head while the nearby Eevees curiously watched each other.
All right, Eevee, Dylan said as he picked up the Eevee wearing an Everstone.
Buoy, the Eevee affectionately nuzzled Dylan's cheek, its voice sweet and soft, full of endearment.
You clingy little fox, Dylan gently tapped Eevee's nose with a warm smile.
Since you still want to evolve, take a look at these pictures.
Which form do you want to evolve into?
Dylan let his Rotom Pokédex hover in front of Eevee, displaying the different evolutions, excluding the water, fire, and electric types.
Buoy.
The other Eevee, watching from the side, seemed both envious and a little downcast. It was different from the others, unable to evolve no matter what.
Don't worry.
Even without evolving, I believe you're still the best EV, Dylan noticed and tenderly squeezed its cheeks. The EV was momentarily stunned but then smiled adorably, its large eyes narrowing into crescent moons. Meanwhile, the EV in Dylan's arms bit its paw, looking at the various evolution forms on the screen with a confused expression. Its little head was spinning. Booey! But when it saw one particular image of an EV evolution, it suddenly became excited, pointing at the picture and calling out to Dylan. Do you like this one? Booey! Alright, then we'll evolve into this one, Dylan nodded with a smile. Booey booey. Eevee happily snuggled into Dylan's chest, its long ears swaying back and forth. But if you want to evolve into this form, you'll need to learn a special move from our Eevee here, Dylan said, referring to the other Eevee. Booey. Good, very determined. Keep it up, Dylan smiled warmly. And then. You've been watching for a while now. Are you not going to show yourself, mysterious sir? Dylan turned, still holding Eevee, and looked in the direction behind him. Footsteps echoed as a tall, slender, handsome young man with green hair slowly emerged from behind a tree. His dull eyes gazed at Dylan and his Pokémon. Dylan raised an eyebrow, surprised at the coincidence. Or rather, it wasn't entirely coincidental, he had chosen this hotel knowing N would stay here as well. Behind N stood 5 Pokémon, Zoroark, Archeops, Vanillux, Klinklang, and Caracosta. I didn't expect to see someone else letting their Pokémon out to stretch this late at night, Dylan said to N with a smile. N remained silent, his gaze shifting toward the Pokémon. His previously dull eyes flickered with emotion. Your Pokémon, they all really like you, N said calmly. I treat my Pokémon as important friends. If they didn't like me, I wouldn't force them to, Dylan replied. But sir, your words are interesting. You're quite special, aren't you? Dylan looked at N with curiosity. You're special as well, N replied without denial, his gaze fixed on Dylan. N had been special since childhood, but the man before him was equally unusual. N could sense a comforting and familiar aura from Dylan, one that made him want to approach. But N quickly suppressed that feeling. There was no doubt this man was no ordinary person. That's true. I've been blessed by nature since birth, gifted with the ability to heal Pokémon, Dylan said as green light glowed from his fingertips, which he gently placed on Eevee's head. Eevee closed its eyes in contentment. Seeing this, N's eyes rippled with emotion. This man, he was special like himself. It gave N a sense of kinship. Because of his own special abilities, N had been treated as a monster and shunned by others, until Getsus took him in. But no matter how special someone is, this world is shared by both humans and Pokémon. Pokémon are humanity's greatest treasure, and humans can be the best friends of Pokémon. Both are integral parts of this world, Dylan said with a smile, playfully petting the Pikachu on his shoulder. N fell silent at Dylan's words. What do you think? You're special like me, Dylan smiled, asking N. N's dull eyes flickered again as he picked up a nearby Oddish that had quietly wandered by. Oddish didn't resist N, in fact, it leaned into him affectionately. I don't agree with what you said, N finally spoke. Not all Pokémon and humans are happy. In many places we can't see, people are hurting Pokémon. They're all suffering. N gently stroked Oddish's leaves, his voice filled with sadness. That's just the kind of person he was. Because he could feel Pokémon's emotions, he was acutely aware of the pain endured by those hurt, abused, or abandoned by humans. There are far too many people who treat Pokémon as mere tools, exploiting them, using their power to fulfill their desires. N's tone remained calm, but his emotions were already starting to stir beneath the surface. You're right, but that's not the majority, Dylan shook his head. While there are dark corners in the world, most people strive for goodness and light, a result of the Pokémon League's efforts. Yet these things are still happening, even now. Somewhere, there's probably someone discarding their Pokémon like an unwanted tool, N said, his eyes dim. And why? Simply in the pursuit of strength. So what we should do is change that minority as well, right? Dylan nodded. He didn't deny N's words. Even in the anime, Ash encountered an abandoned Charmander shortly after starting his journey, a clear example of this reality.
But to Dylan, it wasn't surprising.
Humans are complex beings with a mix of emotions, and even in a Pokemon world mostly filled with kindness, the debate over whether people are inherently good or evil remains unresolved. The Pokemon League has been working hard to guide people toward treating Pokemon with kindness, but unfortunately, some cruelty still lingers. There's no need to change them, nor can we change them, and shook his head. He had his own ideals.
Change? Changing those who are already consumed by greed and darkness?
No, N had accepted that wasn't possible.
As long as humans and Pokemon are separated, the source of all problems will be completely resolved. N spoke calmly.
This was his ideal. He wanted to create a world where Pokemon could truly be free and happy.
You're wrong, Dylan raised an eyebrow. Humans and Pokemon cannot be separated.
It's precisely because they have each other that such beautiful bonds can form.
But these bonds aren't necessarily good for Pokemon, N countered without hesitation.
While the word bond sounds beautiful, N didn't believe it was truly beneficial for Pokemon.
Our views differ. Dylan gave up on discussing this topic with N.
Originally, he wanted to understand N's thoughts better and perhaps sway his current obsessive ideals. After all, N was an outstanding person who genuinely loved Pokemon.
However, it was clear that mere words wouldn't make N abandon his current beliefs.
N's ideas had taken root since his childhood, and the phenomena he spoke of did indeed exist.
I will prove that I'm right. N's eyes shone as he looked at Dylan.
He acknowledged that there were indeed many humans who treated Pokemon as family, living happily together.
But from N's perspective, that wasn't the norm. Pokemon's happiness was their own, not something shared with humans. With all due respect, your ideas are completely unrealistic, Dylan responded bluntly. To separate Pokemon and humans as distinctly as black and white, how could that ever be achieved? Based on what? Just because of Zekrom, Reshiram? What a joke. The black and white dragons were indeed powerful, but they weren't invincible.
Not to mention, in certain scenarios, even a skilled trainer like Lance from the manga wouldn't fear taking on the likes of these legendary dragons. Though the odds may not be in his favor, he'd still have a fighting chance. If it were the Ice Dragon Kyurem, then perhaps there might be a chance to overturn the Unova League, but changing the world would still be impossible.
Who knew the full extent of the Pokemon League's hidden strength?
The number of champions across various regions was no small figure.
Yes, this ideal is difficult, which is why I'm striving for it. N's eyes gradually dimmed.
The path to his ideals was destined to be filled with obstacles, but N was prepared.
No matter what difficulties lay ahead, he would overcome them with his friends.
If you continue to hold these beliefs, we may become enemies in the future, Dylan said directly, looking at N's vacant eyes.
Enemies.
N's gaze grew slightly complex as he looked at the man before him, who was as special as he was. Once again, he fell into silence. This was, after all, the first time he'd spoken his innermost thoughts to anyone other than his father. I am N Harmonia, N said after a long pause.
Dylan, I'm the gym leader of Rhoda. Dylan extended his hand to N.
N hesitated for a moment but slowly reached out to shake Dylan's hand. He wasn't fond of physical contact with others. Your Pokemon are all strong, I can sense that they really like you. Dylan glanced at N's Zoroark and other Pokemon. Thank you, they are my dearest friends. N's lips subconsciously curled into a faint smile. I'd love to spar with you sometime, though I hope our next meeting won't be when we're forced to battle, Dylan said with a smile.
N? Not when we're forced to battle? N's indifferent expression turned somewhat complicated. Watching Dylan's back as he walked back to the hotel, N couldn't help but purse his lips. Yes, there was no guarantee of that, because he was the king of Team Plasma, and he had to fight for them, even if it wasn't his wish. Dylan. N murmured. N, that person isn't ordinary.
He carries a different kind of weight, a deep voice resonated telepathically in N's ears.
Is that so?
He's special like me, N responded calmly.
But no one can stop our ideals, right? You'll help me, won't you, Zekrom?
Yes, and I will do everything in my power for your ideals, the deep voice replied again.
The white dragon is stirring. I can feel it. The true white dragon? Anne fell silent.
At Dragon Spiral Tower, he had awakened Zekrom with his strong ideals.
But ideals and truth are opposites. This was a battle of destiny and beliefs.
Now that the black dragon, Zekrom, had awakened, it was only a matter of time before Reshiram also awakened, and the hero of truth would appear.
Will it be you?
And suddenly thought of Dylan, the friend with different beliefs.
Meanwhile, as Dylan entered the hotel, a Clefairy poked its head out of his bag.
Dylan, that person seems strange, a clear and melodious telepathic voice sounded in Dylan's ear.
What do you mean?
The dragon aura around him is way too strong, not something a human should have, and it feels a lot like that big black dragon. Clefairy chewed on its paw, having been roused from its sleep by the intense dragon aura.
Zekrom?
Yes, that big black dragon.
It's not surprising, Dylan responded calmly, reflecting as he entered the elevator. Indeed, Anne had awakened Zekrom.
In that case, Reshiram should still be without a master. He thought about trying to awaken the white dragon himself. If it came to ideals, he didn't think he stood a chance, but as for truth,
Dylan felt he might have a shot. No problem, he would take a leave of absence soon to visit Dragon Spiral Tower in Unova.
The black dragon was cool, but the white dragon was beautiful.
Chapter 120, Come and bust them. No problem, let's first see if we can awaken the white dragon. If we succeed, then we can look into Kurum.
If we follow the location in the game, Kurum should be residing in the giant chasm.
I wonder if this world's Kurum can transform on its own. Mew, ha. Mew? Can you defeat Kurum?
Dylan pondered, because according to the Sacred Swordsman movie and the Hoopa movie, the ice dragon doesn't need to fuse with the black dragon or white dragon to freely switch between white flame form and dark form.
The ice dragon that can switch between two forms at will is insanely powerful.
It's beyond formidable.
Mew widened its eyes. I don't like the ice dragon. It's too fierce, meow. Mew pouted, clearly having been scolded by Kurum before. Dylan fell silent. Judging by the movies, Kurum's temperament was indeed quite aggressive. Our adorable, non-flying Primal Groudon just accidentally breathed fire at it, and then the ice dragon accidentally froze Primal Groudon into an ice sculpture. It was an instant payback. From the Hoopa movie. The same was true for the Sacred Swordsman movie. Kurum's personality was indeed rather violent. Forget it, thinking about this is pointless. We'll talk more about it when we go to the Unova region later. A calm night passed, and at 8 a.m. the next day, Dylan woke up on time. About a month should be enough, Dylan thought. The storyline of his growth simulation in the Alola region was already approaching Akala Island. A month should be sufficient to complete the first cycle, and by then, he could bring out Necrozma. Once he obtained Necrozma, he would have a lot more confidence. After waking Leah and Lily, the three of them had breakfast and headed to the Sylph Company. Sylph Company was quite prominent in Celadon City, as the tallest building in the city was the Sylph headquarters. Young Master Dylan, Miss Leah, Miss Lily, good morning. Arriving at Sylph Company, a female secretary in a professional outfit was waiting at the entrance. She greeted them respectfully as they exited the car. Hello. President Vernon is waiting for you in the boardroom. Let's go, then. Dylan nodded, and the secretary gestured for the three to follow her. Entering Sylph Company, the secretary pressed the elevator button. Dylan looked around. The first-floor lobby was spacious and luxurious, though not surprisingly so. Upon reaching the top floor of the Sylph building, the secretary led them to the boardroom, where an elderly man with a kind face, the current president of Sylph, Vernon, was already waiting. To Dylan's surprise, there was also a middle-aged man sitting there, dressed in a refined, expensive black suit with a neat, short haircut, a slender face, and an air of maturity and composure. It was Giovanni. Dylan, you're here. Seeing Dylan's arrival, President Vernon's eyes lit up, and he stood up with a friendly smile to greet Dylan. Hello, President Vernon. Dylan politely bowed to President Vernon.
Haha, no need to be so formal, just call me Grandpa.
President Vernon was very enthusiastic.
In the blink of an eye, over 10 years have passed.
I wonder if you still remember that I held you when you were a baby. How's your father, Ito, been lately?
My dad is doing great, enjoying life with my mom.
Ito, he's really taking it easy by leaving all the work to others. President Vernon shook his head helplessly.
I've also heard that you've surpassed your father in every way, Dylan. You're doing much better than he did at your age.
President Vernon patted Dylan's shoulder, full of praise.
After all, Dylan was still young, yet he was already capable of capturing high-ranking members of Team Rocket. His future was promising.
Come, sit down, Dylan. Let me introduce you to this gentleman here. President Vernon led Dylan to a seat and then warmly introduced the man in the black suit. Actually, there's no need for President Vernon to trouble himself. Dylan and I have long admired each other.
The middle-aged man wore a faint smile as he extended his hand toward Dylan.
Garidian Gym Leader Giovanni, Dylan, this is our first meeting, isn't it? No, it actually wasn't. Pleasure to meet you. I've always admired you, Senior Giovanni. Dylan shook Giovanni's hand and smiled in response. That's right.
After all, Giovanni, like Dylan, is also a gym leader.
What a coincidence. President Vernon chuckled.
Mr. Giovanni is not only an excellent gym leader but also a very successful entrepreneur. I've been in contact with him for a long time and have immense respect for his talents and vision.
President Vernon had a high opinion of Giovanni, clearly appreciating his abilities.
You're too kind, President Vernon, Giovanni replied modestly.
Dylan raised an eyebrow but wasn't too surprised.
Giovanni's Team Rocket had indeed expanded rapidly under his leadership, thanks in part to his many business ventures.
For example, the lucrative game corner in the original Celadon City. Giovanni's business acumen was certainly sharp.
I think that if Mr. Giovanni were to join our Sylph company, we could reach even greater heights, Vernon remarked.
Dylan, however, remained silent, thinking, are you seriously trying to recruit Giovanni? That's bold.
This isn't just inviting a wolf into the house, it's inviting a man-eating tiger.
You really aren't worried about Sylph collapsing fast enough, are you?
But Dylan wasn't too surprised, given that Giovanni maintained a very respectable persona, a gym leader of great repute, and a successful businessman. It wasn't unusual for a major company like Sylph to be interested in his abilities. Please allow me some time to consider, President Vernon, Giovanni replied thoughtfully, still wearing a mature and steady expression.
Of course.
Please give it some serious thought, Mr. Giovanni. With your talents, you deserve a bigger stage. Even if your duties as a gym leader prevent you from fully dedicating yourself, we would understand.
President Vernon was earnest.
Thank you for your consideration, President, Giovanni replied calmly. By the way, Dylan, your father, Gato, has already told me about your request.
Take a look at this.
President Vernon took a valuable-looking box from the side and placed it in front of Dylan, slowly opening it. Inside was an exquisitely crafted purple pokeball, with a pair of magenta markings on each side of the upper half, and a large M emblazoned on the button. This is Sylph Company's crowning achievement, the Master Ball.
Pride was evident in President Vernon's voice.
After all, this was the pinnacle of Sylph's technology and materials.
Leah and Lily looked at the brand new Master Ball with curiosity.
Even Giovanni's eyes glimmered slightly as he observed the Master Ball.
This is the only finished product at present, Dylan.
To be honest, due to the scarcity of the necessary materials for making Master Balls, we estimate that only 8 of them can be produced in total. This is undoubtedly the most precious Pokeball in the world, far more valuable than even a luxury ball, President Vernon said to Dylan earnestly. The luxury ball was already considered one of the most precious Pokeballs, and even Dylan only had about a dozen of them, having already used 3.
That's right, they were used for capturing Articuno, Darkrai, and Regirock.
And purely in terms of performance, the Master Ball far surpasses any current Pokeball, there's no question about it.
I really like it.
Dylan chuckled softly, playing with the shrunken Master Ball in his hand.
Ah, the Master Ball.
These Master Balls are not intended for sale. As the name suggests, only true masters deserve to own one. And Dylan, your Master Ball is currently the only one in the world, President Vernon said with a smile.
Impressive.
Lily blinked her big eyes in awe. Sylph Company was a leader in global manufacturing, having pioneered the foundational technology for modern pokeballs.
In terms of pokeball production, they were the undisputed authority.
And according to President Vernon, the Master Ball, said to surpass all other pokeballs on the market, currently existed only in her brother's hands. Even if the remaining 7 were produced in the future, Sylph Company had no plans to sell them to the public. I believe I'll be worthy of this Master Ball, Dylan's eyes flashed slightly.
What kind of Pokemon should he use this Master Ball for? Such a troubling question. Ha ha ha, I think so too. Dylan, did you know?
Our Sylph Company is one of the world's strongest companies, but we've never had a famous trainer emerge from within. Though Ito likes to delegate, he sure had a good son.
President Vernon remarked.
Haha, indeed, gym leader Dylan has a promising future, Giovanni agreed in his magnetic voice.
Senior Giovanni is too kind.
I still have a long way to go compared to you, Dylan said humbly, shaking his head.
You're being modest, gym leader Dylan.
As an older generation of trainers, I can no longer compete with you rising stars, Giovanni responded, still wearing his gentle smile, his manner and poise flawless. No, I still vividly remember your beadrill, thought Dylan as his brow twitched slightly.
Giovanni truly could lie without batting an eye, a seasoned actor.
After a while of pleasant conversation with President Vernon, Dylan finally left, escorted warmly by Vernon himself.
Has the board meeting Ito was asked to convene passed the proposal to place restrictions on the company's financial accounts? Dylan glanced back at the Sylph Company building.
Giovanni was about to take over Sylph Company, but with proper preparations in place, Sylph wouldn't suffer much. After all, the largest shareholder of Sylph Company, Ito, was located in another region.
As long as the company's accounts were manipulated beforehand, it wouldn't matter if Team Rocket occupied the Sylph building. Without Ito's approval, no large sums of money could be transferred out of the company accounts.
This strategy was admittedly a bit extreme, but with Ito holding overwhelming shares, the other shareholders had no choice but to agree.
And the restriction would only last for a year.
Moreover, with so many variables in this world, there was no telling if Team Rocket would go as far as they did in the original story and attempt a hostile takeover of Sylph Company.
Dylan, where are we heading next? Leah yawned as they left Sylph Company. I'm taking you to see something interesting. Dylan glanced at his phone.
The people he had hired to track Anne had sent him another message and another person had already left the hotel.
About 10 minutes later, Dylan arrived near an industrial park. Young master, it's that factory.
I saw them go inside with my own eyes.
Good, you've done well.
Take this, let the boys have a good lunch. Dylan handed a bag of cash to the man in front of him with a smile.
You're too generous, young master. If you need us again, just call. The man gave Dylan a thumbs up, beaming as he took the cash.
Even in the world of Pokemon, while money couldn't get you everything, it certainly made things a lot easier. Otherwise, why would so many Pokemon hunters take the risk of defying the league's bans?
It was all about money. I'll go gather some intel.
Leah's skin on her neck shifted, covering her cheeks, and in the blink of an eye, she had transformed into an ordinary-looking, slightly chubby woman. She spoke to Dylan. This was her specialty.
Be careful. No worries, leave it to me. Leah winked at Dylan before casually strolling toward the factory. After surveying the area, she disappeared into a corner.
Brother, what's this all about?
Lily asked, confused. We'll wait for Leah's intel. This afternoon might get pretty exciting. Have you ever seen a street fight, Lily?
Dylan smiled at her as he scrolled through his phone. Lily tilted her head, not fully understanding, but looking adorable in her confusion.
A few minutes later, a message from Leah popped up on Dylan's phone. Archer, Proton, and an unknown high-ranking executive. Team Rocket's boss will also be here. Wow, as expected of Leah, her efficiency was top-notch. Dylan chuckled softly, then immediately called his dear senior Lance. Dylan? What's up? Proton's voice came through, still as cold and aloof as ever. Senior Lance, there's an illegal gathering of an evil organization here. You'd better come and bust them. That wraps up this part of What If Transmigrated as a Kanto gym leader. Thanks so much for listening. As always, new parts drop every 4 days, so be sure to stay tuned. Quick reminder. What If sign-in system in High School DxD is now on hold, since we've caught up with the author. So now, I need your help picking the next project for the channel. I'm currently deciding between these 3 fanfics. What if Gacha system in Modern Family World? What if Natsu has dual elements? What if Transmigrated in One Piece and becoming a Marine? Please vote in the poll and let me know which story you'd like to see next. I'll take the top pick and start working on that series next. Also check out my Patreon channel for early releases of all the series, where you can find all the series released one day ahead of YouTube. If you enjoyed the video, don't forget to like, subscribe, share it with your friends, and please consider supporting the original author as well. See you in the next one.